Chapter 938. 8 immortal emperors appeared from the coffins. The hearts of everyone were filled with shock, as well as an intense desire. This indicated that the Brahma heavenly emperor had truly left behind his inheritance here. If not, how could the 8 immortal emperors who died in that battle all those years ago all be here? Bzz. A silhouette flashed by, only to see that mysterious old man directly standing on top of an ancient coffin. This mysterious old man swept his gaze over the 8 immortal emperors as he coldly spoke, "Don't break the rules." As the sound of his voice faded, the 8 immortal emperors retracted their auras, only at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon. But no matter what, they were still immortal emperors. The pressure they exuded was ingrained deep into their bones, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Just who is this mysterious gray-robed elder? The hearts of the geniuses trembled. This mysterious old man seemed to always mention the word rules. Were the rules set by the Brahma heavenly emperor himself? The inheritance left behind by the Brahma heavenly emperor, were these 8 immortal emperors a test? Qin Wenyan stared at the mysterious old man. Why would this mysterious old man who didn't know his identity keep emphasizing on the rules? It was as though his existence was to protect this place. Could it be that this mysterious old man had a connection with the Brahma heavenly emperor? The mysterious old man's footsteps trembled. Everyone only saw a gray shadow flashing by as the old man vanished from the vision of the crowd, coming and going without a trace. After the old man left, the gazes of the geniuses all turned to the 8 immortal emperors. Powerful auras radiated from them as numerous constellations appeared in the cavern. Qin Wentian's palms glowed with a terrifying runic light. That terrifying palm appeared once more. It was none other than the god's hand. Qin Er's body shimmered with powerful spatial energy. The spatial light enveloped both Qin Er and Qin Wenyan within. "Let's go." Qin Er spoke in a low voice. After which, the spatial light flashed as she and Qin Wenyan vanished from their original location, dashing towards the entrance of the cavern, wanting to enter the depths of the cavern. A terrifying golden palm print appeared directly in front of Qin Er and Qin Wenyan, as if it was going to grab them out of the space force. Qin Er and Qin Wenyan both attacked at the same time. The destructive fist light and the attack of God's hand were extremely terrifying, but when they collided with the golden palm imprint, they were directly destroyed. That golden palm imprint seemed to be inextinguishable and continued to stack over and over again. Rumbling sounds rang out as both Qin Wenyan and Qin Er were forced back. After that, they only saw an immortal emperor whose entire body glowed with golden light standing in front of them, obstructing those who wanted to pass through. "Be careful." At this moment, Qin Wenyan discovered that all the immortal emperors were charging towards him at the same time. The arm of the bone race's immortal emperor seemed to have broken free from the shackles of his body, containing astonishing offensive power. Qin Wenyan released his battle art as he blasted out a terrifying palm imprint with blood-colored runic light. However, the arm of the bone race's immortal emperor suddenly turned soft and weak. At the instant when it collided with God's hand, the bone race's immortal emperor's hand continued smashing towards Qin Wentian's head. It was incomparably bizarre. Qin Wentian could only lift his left hand and blast it out. With a deafening boom, Qin Wenyan was forced back, slamming into Qin. Qin Er hugged Qin Wenyan as she stepped out. Spatial energy flickered as they directly returned to their original location. These are all immortal emperors from the ancient era. Although their cultivation bases are suppressed to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, their combat prowess is still exceedingly powerful. It's going to be tough for us to defend against them. We have to work together if we want to stand a chance against them. A genius called out. When everyone saw the immortal emperors walking towards them, they all felt an immense pressure bearing down on them. Although they had the advantage in numbers, they still didn't have the confidence to say that they would be able to win against these immortal emperors. Only to see that strange-looking immortal emperor walking towards them. His gaze directly swept towards Qin Wenyan, as though he was targeted by them because Qin Wenyan and Qin Er wanted to enter the depths of the cavern earlier. That terrifying gaze directly penetrated through Qin Wentian's will. At this instant, Qin Wenyan appeared in a blood-colored space. His opponent wielded a blood-colored battle spear and directly stabbed towards him, as though it was the end of the world. Scram! Terrifying flames ignited on Qin Wenyan's body as boundless runic light circulated around him. Rumbling sounds rang out as his body expanded in size, filled with boundless energy. Everyone, there are so many geniuses who entered the cavern this time around. If we don't hurry up and deal with these 8 puppets and rush into the depths of the cavern, I'm afraid we won't have such an opportunity in the future. Qin Wenyan spoke. He directly stepped out as a pair of wings appeared behind him. God's hand swept out, transforming into a gigantic palm imprint, capable of suppressing everything. The light in the eyes of that immortal emperor grew increasingly terrifying, piercing through Qin Wenyan's eyes. Numerous blood-colored phantoms manifested, transforming into corporeal existences. They wielded battle spears and directly blasted towards Qin Wenyan's palm imprint. At the same time, that immortal emperor's body transformed into a beam of blood-colored light, penetrating through the attack. His eyes were still fixed on Qin Wenyan, as though he wanted to make Qin Wenyan fall into his eye technique no matter what. A terrifying blood-colored vortex appeared, directly engulfing Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan's countenance abruptly changed. He glanced at his surroundings. This was no longer an illusion, but a real vortex. Swishing sounds rang out as numerous blood-colored chains shot towards Qin Wenyan, wanting to lock him within this blood-colored space. A long spear appeared in Qin Wenyan's god's hand as the power of his bloodline circulated around it. His body was like a wind rock, as fast as lightning, directly piercing towards his opponent. However, numerous blood-colored battle generals appeared, blocking in front of Qin Wenyan, wielding blood-colored battle spears to block his attack. Qin Wenyan's spear attack was extremely fast. With a shake of his arm, the spear directly pierced into a body. That body was instantly permeated by the power of his bloodline as well as the fearsome might of the attack. After that, a thunderous boom rang out as it dissipated into nothingness. In the outside world, Qin Er's countenance abruptly turned extremely cold when she saw Qin Wenyan being engulfed by the blood-colored light. The spatial energy around her transformed into countless killing weapons, dancing about frenziedly. Golden light enveloped her, causing the entire space to tremble violently. She blasted out with her palms as the immortal slaying diagram appeared before her, capable of annihilating everything. However, the silhouette of another immortal emperor stepped over, blasting out with both palms, causing the space around him to tremble violently. Qin retreat. At this moment, a voice drifted over. It was none other than Zidaoyang. He released his constellation as a divine might descended. A dazzling divine light transformed into the silhouette of a divinity, and when the palms blasted out, Zidaoyang's energy seemed to devour them. After that, his constellation flashed as terrifying rumbling sounds shook the heavens and earth. When Zidaoyang lifted his palms to attack, the power he unleashed was no different from his opponent's attack. It was simply terrifying. Zidaoyang retreated as he fought, only to see Qin directly bypassing him. She wanted to help Qin Wenyan, yet Zidaoyang wanted her to retreat? Bang! A terrifying aura gushed forth as Qin Wenyan appeared. His steps were unsteady as blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The glow of God's hand had also dimmed by quite a bit. Qin Er's silhouette flickered as she directly appeared beside Qin Wenyan. Her clear eyes flickered with worry, while the other geniuses also started fighting. Bone Devil was actually fighting against his ancestor. He had tempered a body of copper skin and iron bones, giving him boundless might. He could extend his arms and legs at will, and his attacks were terrifying to the extreme. Naturally, just Bone Devil alone wasn't enough. His 2 allies were joining forces with him. Su Rushue had a terrifying whip constellation, and when she lashed out, her whip would fill the air, lacerating her opponents. She was also wielding a long whip that glowed with terrifying runic light. Every lash of her whip would contain a destructive light that would destroy everything it touched. As expected of an expert ranked in the top 10 of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Kuan Nu had boundless strength, and his golden palm imprints could suppress the heavens and earth. His strength was also extremely powerful, and it was extremely strenuous for 3 experts ranked in the top 10 to fight against an immortal emperor. Zhan Peng, why are you not coming over to help? Su Ruxue called out to the number 7 ranker, Zhan Peng. Zhan Peng's eyes flashed, and after that, his silhouette shot out like a bolt of lightning, joining the battle. As for the others, there were over 10 of them fighting against an immortal emperor, yet they were still in a precarious situation. Because to the vast majority of them, they basically couldn't withstand a single strike from these immortal emperors. If this continued on, even if there were many geniuses, they would still be swept away one by one. Bzz. It was unknown who was the first to take out an immortal-ranked weapon. For a period of time, immortal might gushed forth, but at the same instant, the eyes of the 8 immortal emperors gleamed with a dazzling light. One of them stabbed out with his finger as piercing sounds rang out. 3 geniuses were directly pierced through the center of their brows, causing them to directly fall to the ground. This included the expert who took out an immortal-ranked weapon. Bastard! Zi Daoyang retreated explosively with explosive speed, his expression extremely unsightly to behold. That genius wanted to kill them all. These were all ancient emperors. If he took out an immortal weapon, wouldn't it be equivalent to courting death? After that expert died, the gazes of these ancient emperors shifted as their auras gradually retracted. Just when everyone fell silent, Qin Wenyan and Qing vanished at the same time, rushing towards the entrance of the cavern once more. That immortal emperor appeared again, blasting out a terrifying palm imprint. At this instant, Qin Wenyan's god's hand completely erupted forth, destroying everything in its path. Before this, the other immortal emperors merely glanced at them. But at this moment, their countenances all changed. All of a sudden, all of them stepped out, moving as fast as lightning. Bzz. Qing waved her hands as a spatial barrier appeared, transforming into a spatial vortex, sealing the path behind her. She and Qin Wenyan walked side by side as boundless spatial energy gushed forth. Also, a terrifying light radiated from her, as though her attack power had skyrocketed, capable of destroying everything. Under the dual attacks, even that immortal emperor felt that things were getting troublesome. He glanced at the 2 of them before his silhouette flickered to the side, directly opening up a path for them. Bzz. Qing and Qin Wenyan passed by him at the same time, entering the depths of the cavern. Go! When the others saw this scene, they all rushed out as a violent aura engulfed the area. All of them unleashed their strength to the limits, disregarding everything, wanting to rush out. Chapter 939. Qin Wenyan and Qing rushed out of that region. As expected, the 8 ancient emperors didn't chase after them. They walked shoulder to shoulder as an ancient aura permeated the air. Finally, Qin Wenyan and Qing saw the ancient ruins ahead. They halted their steps as their gazes froze there. Ahead, there seemed to be a terrifying statue that towered into the heavens. This statue was in the form of an incomparably gigantic demonic beast, exuding an incomparably tyrannical aura. It had 9 heads and 9 pairs of eyes, each containing a different type of terrifying will. Each of the wills exuded a towering aura, unexcelled in the world, and awe-inspiring might. When the 9 heads stood side by side, it gave off an aura of supremacy. It was unknown how terrifying this demonic beast must have been when it was alive. With 9 heads, its body stretched out for an unknown distance. Not only that, the appearance of this demonic beast bore a faint resemblance to Little Rascal. Is this the Brahma Heavenly Emperor? A legendary character whose name shook the immortal realms, an ancient emperor whose name shook the entire immortal realms. Is his true form a demonic beast? The Brahma Heavenly Demon Emperor. Qin Wenyan mumbled in his heart. His gaze shifted to the gigantic body below. Below each of its 9 heads, there was a mystical runic diagram inscribed on each of its heads, and there were exactly 9 different locations. At this moment, in 2 of the diagrams, a silhouette could be seen. 1 human, 1 demon. That demon was none other than Little Rascal. As for that person, it was a young man exuding a cold aura. His brows were as sharp as swords, and although his eyes were closed, he still exuded a sense of sharpness. His aura was extremely cold, and Qin Wentian's intuition told him that this person was definitely a dangerous character. Number 2 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Emocia. Qin Wentian silently mused. He instantly knew who this person was. He was none other than the ruthless character that all the geniuses were talking about, the number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings. As expected, he had long entered this place and relied on his own strength to reach this point. Most probably, what he had experienced was much more difficult compared to what Qin Wentian had imagined. What's going on? Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the other diagrams. Out of the 9 diagrams, there were quite a few that were dim and lusterless, as though the runic patterns on them had already faded. This was similar to the one Emocia was sitting on, but it was even dimmer than the one Emocia was sitting on. Emocia has been here for quite a long time. He must have comprehended the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance earlier than Little Rascal. In that case, this dimming signifies that the inheritance is about to end. In other words, those few diagrams that have already dimmed are places where people have sat before. Did someone come here before Emocia? Or could it be that this is also caused by the cultivation of evil devils? Qin Wentian's heart was filled with doubt. There are 2 more spots. You should go. Qin stared at Qin Wentian. Her voice was melodious, and a hint of anticipation could be seen in her beautiful eyes. This might very well be the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Qin clearly hoped that Qin Wentian would be able to obtain it. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. He glanced at Little Rascal, and at this moment, a bright light flashed. Qin Wentian only saw Little Rascal opening its eyes as it stared at Qin Wentian. No, Little Rascal. Qin Wentian called out, as a look of bewilderment flashed in his eyes. My inheritance is divided into 9 parts, and each person can only obtain one. If you wish to obtain my lifetime's worth of power, become an emperor in the immortal realms, dominate everything under the heavens, and devour the power of the other 8. 9 by 9 return to 1, fusing the 9 great inheritances into a single body, achieving the name of Brahma Heavenly Emperor. A voice rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. Although Little Rascal's voice was still immature, one could still sense the tyrannical sharpness in its words. This must have been left behind by the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. If you want to obtain my lifetime's worth of power, you have to fuse the 9 great inheritances into a single body. A sharp light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He could see a hint of hope in Little Rascal's eyes. Evidently, Little Rascal didn't want him to cultivate the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance. Once he cultivated it, it would mean that if he wanted to obtain the full power of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, he and Little Rascal would become enemies. The Brahma Heavenly Emperor is a demon emperor, and he believes in strength above all else. The weak are prey to the strong. If you want to obtain your full inheritance, you have to devour the other 8 existences, choosing one out of the 9. Undoubtedly, the one who obtained the full inheritance would be the most terrifying existence. How could Qin Wentian not understand the meaning behind the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's words? What a ruthless method, making his inheritors compete against each other, splitting the inheritance into 9 parts. In this case, even if one of the inheritors died, the Brahma Heavenly Emperor would still have a successor, and his inheritance wouldn't be severed. If there was only one inheritor, the chances of the inheritance being severed would be even higher. Fine, I won't cultivate the inheritance. Qin Wentian smiled. Would you be in danger here? Of the 9 inheritors of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, there were already 2 of them here. If the second ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings finished his cultivation and Little Rascal also obtained one of the 9 inheritors, he would definitely act against Little Rascal. Little Rascal shook his head, after which he blasted his palms outwards. Instantly, beams of runic light flashed as his entire body was enveloped by a screen of light. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wentian set his heart at ease. Seems like the inheritance process wouldn't be interrupted at all. Bzz. At this moment, the sound of wind drifted over from behind. Qin Wenyan and Qing abruptly turned their gazes over, only to see numerous experts rushing over. These were none other than the geniuses who were blocked outside earlier. This scene caused a strange expression to appear on Qin Wentian's face. Why did all of them enter? How tyrannical were the 8 ancient emperors? To think that they actually managed to enter this place. A gray-colored silhouette stepped in. He directly stood in the airspace above the cavern and swept his gaze over, landing on Qin Wenyan and Qing. You guys actually didn't go over? The gray-robed old man mumbled to himself, staring at Qin Wenyan and Qing in bewilderment. This scene caused Qin Wenyan to understand something. Out of the 9 great inheritances of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, there were only 2 slots left. Before Mo Xie and Little Rascal, there were already 5 others who had obtained the power of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance. In that case, when he and Qing entered this place, it meant that there were no more slots left. However, the gray-robed old man didn't expect that he and Qing wouldn't be able to obtain the power of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Senior, we are willing to give up. Qin Wentian spoke. Give up, give up. The old man's gaze was absent-minded as a terrifying gleam of sharpness abruptly shot out. A gust of wind gusted by as the gray-robed old man directly appeared before Qin Wenyan. A terrifying pressure gushed over, causing Qin Wenyan to feel a sense of suffocation as he stared ahead. You actually gave up. The mysterious old man seemed to be extremely enraged. He took a step forward and with a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian's body directly slammed into the statue. However, he was obstructed by a fearsome resistance. A screen of runic light appeared, and when he neared the statue, an incomparably heavy pressure actually appeared, blocking him. Qing's countenance turned cold, wanting to block the old man. However, the old man's silhouette flickered, appearing before Qin Wenyan once again. His eyes were extremely terrifying. You guys really want to give up? Senior. Qin Wenyan pointed his finger at Little Rascal. That's my comrade. You should understand why I gave up. Your comrade? The mysterious old man glanced at Little Rascal before turning his gaze back to Qin Wenyan, as though he understood something. After which, he sighed, Forget it, let them fight for it then. As for who can obtain it, it's up to you guys. As the sound of his voice faded, his silhouette flickered as he vanished once again. Fight. The eyes of the geniuses all gleamed with a terrifying sharpness as they stared at the fearsome statue of the demonic beast. With a single glance, they locked onto the 2 glowing diagrams. These 2 positions were undoubtedly the positions of the inheritors. Let's go. Qin Wenyan and Qing sped to the side. After which, a terrifying rumbling sound engulfed the heavens and earth as they madly rushed forward. Zi Daoyang's speed was the fastest. With a single step, he directly entered the screen of light. Turning his head back, he roared in rage, Scram! This roar of rage shook the heavens and earth, like the sound of the great Tao, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble violently. I want one. Zhan Peng's speed was incomparably fast. His eyes were filled with stubbornness. The Brahma Heavenly Emperor was actually a demon emperor. In that case, he definitely had to fight for a position because he and the Brahma Heavenly Emperor were the same species. Rumble. Zi Daoyang slowly stepped into the screen of light. His aura shook the heavens. Who would dare to obstruct him? The people behind him madly rushed towards the screen of light. After which, their bodies seemed to have sunk into a quagmire, unable to move at all. However, they still used all their strength to advance forward. Bone Devil's arms expanded explosively, flickering with terrifying runic light. He directly blasted out towards 2 silhouettes, causing a deafening boom to ring out. The 2 of them sank into the quagmire and were directly pierced through by Bone Devil's arms, instantly dying. Su Rushue's divine whip constellation was unleashed to the extreme. Her body coiled around the long whip as she ferociously lashed out in all directions. Crisp sounds rang out unceasingly, and every lash of the whip landed on the bodies of others, directly penetrating into their bones, causing them to be drenched in blood. The other geniuses all frenziedly attacked. Because they were all trapped in the quagmire, it was difficult for them to move. They could only clash head-on, and it was extremely dangerous. In the blink of an eye, over 10 geniuses had either fallen or were injured. It was an incomparably tragic scene. Qin Wenyin and Qing were like spectators, watching this battle that was even more intense compared to the one outside. Before this, when they were dealing with the 8 immortal emperors, the various geniuses worked together as one. But when it came to fighting for the inheritance, blood instantly flowed everywhere. There was no longer any so-called allies, and anyone could act against them from the back. At this moment, a dazzling red silhouette flashed over, so fast that it was like a bolt of lightning. A terrifying blood-colored flame blazed around it, containing a might that could destroy everything as it instantly rushed into the crowd. That figure directly pointed a finger forward. Instantly, a surge of red flames danced in the air, transforming into a fearsome divine phoenix. Boom! Several figures started to burn at the same time, as though they were about to be incinerated. Southern Phoenix. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Why did the Southern Phoenix come? Also, the aura of the Southern Phoenix at this moment was extremely terrifying. Before this, although Namhuang Yunxi was cold, she wasn't as cold as she was now. What happened to her? Chapter 940. The aura radiating from Namhuang Yunxi was exceedingly cold. However, a terrifying divine flame blazed around her body, as though it would extinguish the moment it touched her. The various geniuses also discovered Nanfeng Yunxi's existence. They abruptly turned around as their expressions changed. Wariness could be seen on their faces as powerful auras gushed forth from them. However, Nanfeng Yunxi acted as though she didn't notice them at all. A resplendent glow radiated from her as the flames around her grew brighter and brighter, resembling the flames of blood, exuding a bewitching beauty. Nanfeng Yunxi stabbed out with her finger once again. Scarlet flames shuttled through the air, and in front of those geniuses, a brilliant red light flashed as a fearsome blazing feather directly slashed out. A piercing sound rang out as the arm of one of the geniuses was severed. The other geniuses frenziedly launched attacks, blocking Nanfeng Yunxi's attack. And at the very front, Zi Daoyang was unstoppable. He continued advancing towards one of the 2 ancient seats. It was as though the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang, would definitely be able to lock down one of the ancient seats. The others could only fight for the last seat. Namhuang Yunxi's killing spree was incomparably decisive, causing the various geniuses to feel an intense sense of danger. The top 3 rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings were all in this space. Among them, the number 2 ranker, Mo Xie, was currently sitting on one of the ancient seats. It was unknown how long he had been comprehending, and it was most likely that he wouldn't be too far away from obtaining the inheritance. The number 1 ranker, Zi Daoyang, was fighting for a seat of the ancient inheritance. Who else would be able to contend against the number 3 ranker, Namhuang Yunxi? Qin Wenyin furrowed his brows. Was this really Namhuang Yunxi? Nanfeng. Qin Wenyin called out. He dashed out, similarly moving towards Namhuang Yunxi. Qing'er followed closely behind Qin Wenyin. Namhuang Yunxi was currently fighting against the other geniuses, and she didn't pay attention to Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin and Qing'er were left at the back, and in addition to Qing'er's spatial manipulation, the 2 of them got closer and closer to Namhuang Yunxi. Puchi! Namhuang Yunxi's gaze abruptly shifted as she directly slashed out an attack, targeting both Qin Wenyin and Qing'er. At this moment, Qin Wenyin saw her eyes. Those eyes were extremely cold, devoid of any emotions. Qin Wentian's gaze seemed to be able to pierce through Namhuang Yunxi's eyes, and he felt a sense of déjà vu. Bang! Qing'er and Namhuang Yunxi's attacks collided together. It's you. Qin Wenyin seemed to have understood who the person before him was. This wasn't Namhuang Yunxi, but that nether-like woman he met when he entered the underworld mountains back then. She possessed a terrifying and mysterious power, and was able to possess the body of others. Right now, Qin Wenyin had a strong feeling that the current Namhuang Yunxi was that mysterious woman. She was currently occupying Namhuang Yunxi's body, seizing the position of inheritance. At this moment, Qin Wendian suddenly had a strange feeling. He was even wondering if the person who spread the news of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was her, attracting so many geniuses to the underworld mountains, seizing the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Before this, the only possibility was this woman. The other person who came to the underworld mountains was Mo Xie. He had always been cultivating, and it was impossible for him to be the one who spread the news. Qing'e, I want to get close to her. Qin Wendian spoke. Qing'e didn't reply. She blasted out with her palms, and a terrifying spatial fist light shot out, wanting to tear everything apart. Namhuang Yunshi coldly stared in their direction. Her finger pointed out once more, and instantly, a demonic red color appeared in this space. Numerous feathers resembling real sharp blades slashed over, lacerating the void. Quickly deal with her. Qin Wendian roared to the other geniuses. However, he only saw the others rushing towards the position of inheritance, giving it their all. As for Namhuang Yunshi, she was being held back by Qing'e and Qin Wendian. As long as it didn't affect them, it didn't matter. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wendian's expression froze. He knew that it was meaningless to rely on these geniuses. But if Namhuang Yunshi was allowed to seize the position of inheritance, he wouldn't agree to it. Once that mysterious woman controlled Namhuang Yunshi and seized the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, from then on, Namhuang Yunshi would no longer be Namhuang Yunshi. That mysterious woman would always occupy her body because she possessed the inheritance. Namhuang Yunshi would completely disappear, and in the future, Little Rascal and her would be enemies. Evidently, this was something that Qin Wendian didn't want to see. Qing'e, just hold her back. Qin Wendian suddenly changed his strategy. His body abruptly expanded in size as he blasted out with his palms. At the same time, numerous golden silhouettes descended from the sky, surrounding Namhuang Yunshi, cutting off her path of retreat. Namhuang Yunshi's gaze was so cold that it was bone-piercing. She stared fixedly at Qin Wendian. Her hatred for Qin Wendian was so deep that it seeped into her bones. She spent so much effort just to seize the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. But just as she was about to obtain it, Qin Wendian was about to spoil her plans. How could she be willing to accept this? Bzz. Namhuang Yunshi's body abruptly erupted with a towering red light, engulfing the heavens and earth. Her bloodline seemed to be roaring as her incomparably resplendent phoenix feathers appeared, as though she was wearing a robe made of phoenix feathers. Her body trembled slightly as boundless resplendent feathers slashed out, seemingly capable of slashing apart space itself. Qing'e stared at the boundless killing light as her long hair fluttered in the wind. She roared in a melodious voice as she frenziedly blasted out with both her palms. The immortal slaying diagram transformed into a terrifying vortex, absorbing all the slashing energy into it. Qing'e, let's go. Qin Wendian turned his gaze to the front. Seeing that the situation had already been decided, there was no longer a need to continue fighting. Since that mysterious maiden couldn't obtain the inheritance, she would definitely return to her original body. There was no longer any meaning for her to possess Namhuang Yunshi's body. Given the mysterious maiden's unique strength, even an existence on the level of Namhuang Yunshi was easily possessed by her. There was basically no one at the celestial phenomenon realm who could obstruct her. Only the power of his bloodline seemed to have a special deterrent effect against her. Qing'e pushed out with both her palms as the immortal slaying diagram frenziedly slashed forward. After which, both she and Qin Wendian retreated. After Namhuang Yunshi blocked her attack, she didn't pursue them. Instead, she directly turned and flew towards the ancient inheritance seat. But when she saw the situation there, her countenance turned pale. Zi Daoyang had already seized one of the ancient inheritances, and the last one was actually obtained by that extremely stubborn bird, Zhan Peng. Zhan Peng's entire body was riddled with injuries, and he was drenched in blood. Just before he ascended the ancient inheritance, Su Rushue's long whip still lashed out at him, lacerating his flesh and causing his flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. However, Zhan Peng didn't even make a sound, disregarding everything else as he ascended the ancient inheritance. There seemed to be something extraordinary about this stubborn bird. Arg! Nanfeng Yunxi let out a long howl when she saw this scene. She was incomparably enraged, and her expression was filled with a terrifying rage. That cold and imposing gaze of hers directly caused the geniuses around her to feel a bone-chilling coldness. They stared at Nanfeng Yunxi in disbelief. The number 3 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings actually gave them an incomparably fearsome feeling. Her rage caused everyone to feel a sense of terror that originated from the depths of their souls. However, there were also quite a few people who were unwilling to give up. They continued rushing towards Zhang Peng's position, wanting to step onto the ancient seat and expel him from it. However, the instant Zhang Peng sat down on the ancient seat, a resplendent runic light enveloped his body. The attacks of those heavens chosen were directly blocked by the light, unable to threaten Zhang Peng in the slightest. When Zhang Peng saw this scene, his eyes flickered with excitement. He had finally obtained it. He had obtained the ancient inheritance in the competition between the geniuses. He would definitely rise up and kill the sovereign of the sky, becoming an existence that surpassed the divine bird. Qin Wenyan and Qinger silently departed from this place. Since Little Rascal had his own good fortune, Qin Wenyan naturally wished him well. However, the enemies Little Rascal would have to face next were all extremely terrifying. The 3 people before him were none other than the number 7 ranker, Zhang Peng, the number 1 ranker, Zi Daoyang, and the number 2 ranker, Mo Xie. Other than them, there were still 5 others who had obtained the ancient inheritances. Qin Wenyan had no idea who they were, but it was clear that they had obtained the ancient inheritances a long time ago, and their cultivation bases were unfathomable. The 2 of them passed by the cavern outside. The 8 immortal emperors no longer had any auras, as though they had never lived before. Qin Wenyan naturally wouldn't disturb them. He continued on his way, and when he arrived outside the cavern, he saw the mysterious gray-robed old man standing there with his hands clasped behind his back, exuding an incomparably lonely aura. His back view seemed to fuse together with the transcendent might of the palace, as though he was the supreme ruler of this place. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin Wenyan had personally seen the statues and the 9 ancient inheritances, he might have even thought that this gray-robed old man was the Brahma Heavenly Emperor himself. At this moment, Qin Wenyan was filled with suspicions regarding the identity of this gray-robed old man. Who was he exactly? Everything has ended, the gray-robed old man mumbled. The 9 ancient inheritances had all been passed down, and it was as though his mission had already been accomplished. I seem to have recalled something, the gray-robed old man murmured. His body hadn't moved at all, and his back was still facing Qin Wenyan and Qin Wenyan. This place is the place where the Brahma Heavenly Emperor left his inheritance. He left behind 9 inheritances, wanting his 9 successors to contend against each other. Once all 9 inheritances were passed down, all the other successors would be able to sense it. The old man spoke in a low voice. He then turned his gaze to the front, only to see him stretching out his hand and pointing ahead as he continued, "Not only did I recall the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, I also recalled who he was. Back then, the name of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor shook the entire immortal realms, slaying 8 immortal emperors in a single battle. Whoever dared to contend against him, those who fought would die. He was invincible in the immortal realms, and everyone in the world feared him." The tone of the mysterious gray-robed old man gradually grew agitated. He pointed to the golden light that illuminated the sky, as well as the cavern over there as he spoke. Only he can contend against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. He is a truly supreme character. He fought against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor alone, causing the Brahma Heavenly Emperor to be trapped here forever. Such a character, in the entire immortal realms, there's no one else like him. Chapter 941. When Qin Wenyan saw the agitated look on the gray-robed old man's face, he turned his gaze ahead. The supreme aura of an emperor clashed against the terrifying aura left behind by the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Both of them remained in the cave, and it was as though their battle wouldn't lose its brilliance with the passage of time. Back then, when the ancient emperors contended for supremacy, the Brahma heavenly emperor was unparalleled under the heavens, the only person who could be his opponent. The two of them fought here, causing the unparalleled Brahma heavenly emperor to die here. How imposing was that? What kind of scene was the battle between the two of them? If time could be reversed, Qin Wenyin really wanted to go back and witness the shocking battle between the two of them. The auras of the two ancient emperors hadn't dissipated despite the passage of countless years. The Brahma heavenly emperor left his inheritance here, allowing his 9 successors to compete against each other until only one remained. Such a cruel method was most probably to use the cruelest method to select a truly outstanding character like him. After his death, it seemed that he still wanted to defeat the existence opposite him. These two ancient emperors, ambitious and ruthless characters, must have admired each other and admired each other. Since you didn't receive the inheritance of the Brahma heavenly emperor, are you preparing to head to the cave on the other side? At this moment, the gray-robed old man asked in a low voice. After that, he slowly turned and stared at Qin Wenyin. I won't hide it from Senior. Junior does wish to go there and take a look. Qin Wenyin replied. As the sound of his voice faded, the gray-robed old man stared at him. After that, he sighed. Oh well, your companion obtained the inheritance of the Brahma heavenly emperor and you were willing to give it up. Now that you are heading to the other side, everything has its own destiny. If you also obtain the inheritance, you and your companion would have inherited both of their inheritances. Perhaps, everything has its own destiny. Senior, how can it be so easy to obtain the inheritance? Let's leave everything up to fate. Qin Wenyin slowly spoke. Just like before, he exhausted all his energy and finally reached the Brahma heavenly emperor's side. As long as he was willing to take that step, he would be able to become one of the inheritors of the Brahma heavenly emperor. However, he chose to give it up. How could it be so easy to obtain the inheritance on the other side? He would fight for it, but if he couldn't, he wouldn't feel too bad. Well said. Everything is up to fate. I should go now. The old man's eyes lit up. His silhouette flickered as he appeared in the sky. Leave everything up to fate. A clear voice echoed in the air. The mysterious gray-robed old man took a step forward and disappeared from this place. It was as if he had completed his mission and no longer had the heart to stay here. Leave everything up to fate. He should naturally seek his own self. Who exactly was he? Shall we go? Asked in a low voice when she saw Qin Wenyin staring at the back of the gray-robed old man in a daze. Yes, but let's wait for a bit. As Qin Wenyin spoke, his aura abruptly gushed forth. In fact, he even released the power of his constellation. After which, rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly as he continued walking on the ground. Within the cavern, some geniuses walked out. Naturally, these were those who knew that they had no hope of obtaining the inheritance and had decided to give up. They were preparing to head to the other side. Only to see that the genius who walked out glanced at Qin Wenyin and Qin as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. However, he didn't say anything and continued walking forward. After that, more and more experts walked out. Although they felt some reluctance in their hearts, the radiance from the inheritance severed their hopes. Other than the inheritance, there was only that gigantic 9-headed statue and nothing else. After searching for some time, even if they didn't want to give up, they had no choice but to give up. Let alone the fact that the aura from the other side was also extremely terrifying. Maybe, they might also have a heaven-shaking inheritance. Why was there a need to stubbornly cling onto the inheritance of the Brahma heavenly emperor? Many people saw Qin Wenyin and Qin as they walked past them. Finally, Nam Huang Yunxi also walked out. When she saw Qin Wenyin and Qin Wenyin, a cold light flickered in her eyes. That imposing gaze of hers contained an unquestionable authority. She walked step by step towards Qin Wenyin and spoke for the first time. Spoiling my plans, do you know that this is courting death? As the sound of her voice faded, her aura gushed forth. The energy she used was none other than Nam Huang Yunxi's energy. It was very hard to imagine that after possessing Nam Huang Yunxi's body, She was actually able to unleash Nam Huang Yunxi's energy in such a short period of time with such proficiency. Just this mysterious ability alone caused Qin Wenyan to feel somewhat fearful. That figure walked towards Qin Wenyan step by step. Each step was filled with resolution. Her gaze was as cold as ever, devoid of any emotions. Finally, she moved. Phoenix wings soars the heavens, exuding a terrifying might. The bewitching red light radiated forth once again, causing everything to lose its color. She unleashed a terrifying attack towards Qin Wenyan. Qin also moved. The immortal executioner diagram bloomed. The terrifying and resplendent diagram wanted to annihilate everything, entangling everything within the vortex, resisting the opponent's attack. It was as though she was always by Qin Wenyan's side, and would only use her energy when Qin Wenyan needed it. At this moment, Qin Wenyan suddenly stomped on the ground. A resplendent light shot up into the sky, as though the shadow of a golden deity had appeared. Light runes illuminated the sky, and a suppressive force was born. Nam Huang Yunxi's countenance suddenly changed. An incomparably resplendent diagram appeared beneath her feet. She seemed to have stepped into the trap that Qin Wenyan had set for her. Nam Huang Yunxi wanted to retreat, but at this moment, the diagram seemed to have closed up. The dazzling light transformed into a terrifying character, and she suddenly felt that she couldn't move at all. All the energy in her body seemed to have been sealed and suppressed by the gigantic character. Although she had tyrannical strength, it was useless at this moment. She couldn't even move her body. In front of her, Qin Wenyan's body flickered like the wind. His palm, which was covered in scorching white light, directly pressed out, landing on Nam Huang Yunxi's chest. A terrifying bloodline power enveloped Nam Huang Yunxi's body, but it didn't destroy it. Instead, it seeped into her body bit by bit. An extremely cold aura bloomed from Nam Huang Yunxi's body. There seemed to be a white shadow that was about to come out, but it was still struggling. Nam Huang Yunxi revealed a pained expression. Qin Wenyan's countenance was like lightning. He blasted out with his other hand, pressing both of his palms on Nam Huang Yunxi's chest at the same time. He was determined to expel the other party from Nam Huang Yunxi's body. At this moment, brilliant white light bloomed from all over Nam Huang Yunxi's body, and the white light seeped into her body bit by bit. Finally, with a boom, a body seemed to have left Nam Huang Yunxi's body and flew into the void. It was the mysterious woman. Her eyes were extremely cold, staring at Qin Wenyan coldly. That peerless beauty was devoid of any color. Nanfeng Yunxi finally awoke from her stupor. She stared at the scene in front of her, staring at the place where Qin Wenyan's hands were touching. Her face instantly turned red. One could very well imagine how unsightly her countenance was when she saw such a scene right after she awoke. "Not enough?" asked Nam Huang Yunxi coldly. Qin Wenyan retracted his gaze from the woman in the void and put his hands down at lightning speed. Looking at Nam Huang Yunxi's sharp eyes, he couldn't help but tremble as he said, "I was in a hurry, don't blame me, don't blame me." At this moment, Qin Wenyan was extremely embarrassed. Nam Huang Yunxi looked at his eyes and immediately turned her head away. Although she was very angry in her heart, she knew that if someone dared to take advantage of her like this, she would definitely kill that person. But she also knew that Qin Wenyan didn't do it on purpose. He did it to help her. What could she do? Raising her head, Nam Huang Yunxi also looked at the mysterious figure in the void. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a deep sense of fear. Fortunately, Qin Wenyan had expelled her from his body, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Buzz! A gust of wind brushed past, and the woman directly appeared in front of Qin Wenyan, extending her hand towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan raised his hand and blasted out a palm of flames. The woman's silhouette flickered again and appeared behind Qin Wenyan like a specter. Her eyes were cold as she stared at Qin Wenyan. Finally, her silhouette drifted away like a gust of wind, leaving this place. "Are you all right?" asked Qin Wenyan to Nam Huang Yunxi. But when he saw Nam Huang Yunxi looking at him coldly, Qin Wenyan could only smile. He turned around and said to Qing Er, "Let's go." However, he saw that Qing Er was also looking at him cold. Qin Wenyan couldn't help but explain, Qing Er, I didn't do it on purpose. Qing Er's voice was crisp and clear. Was it comfortable? After speaking, she turned and walked away. Qin Wenyin was petrified. He was speechless. Qing Er, I was wrong. Qing Er blinked and chased after them only to see Nanfeng Yunxi's beautiful eyes flickering as she stared at the two of them. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a similar light as she stared at the two of them. Comfortable? Upon thinking of this, Nam Huang Yunxi's countenance turned cold again as she stared fixedly at Qin Wenyin. Boundless beams of light shot up into the sky. The aura contained within the cave was like a king descending from the heavens. It was completely different from the aura of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's cave. It was as though they were two opposing existences. Qin Wenyin, Qing Er, and Nam Huang Yunxi appeared outside the cave. It was as though the three of them had already forgotten about what happened earlier. Let's enter. Qin Wenyin spoke in a low voice. The three of them stepped out and entered the cave. That powerful aura seemed to have become even purer. Within the cave, golden light flashed, illuminating every corner. There were many geniuses here. They stared ahead only to see an incomparably pure king light interweaving together to form a magnificent diagram. Over there seemed to be a figure cast from pure gold. It was like a king from the primordial era, lying within the golden light. Just the light flowing around it caused people to feel the terrifying might contained within. Chapter 942. Senior Brother Qin, you guys are here. Jun Mingchen was also here. Upon seeing Qin Wenyin walking over, his eyes flashed with excitement. After which, he turned to Nam Huang Yunxi and asked, "What happened to you earlier?" "Nothing much." Nam Huang Yunxi shook her head and didn't say anything more. A puzzled expression appeared on Jun Mingchen's face, but he didn't probe further. Qin Wenyin stared at them and asked, "What's going on here?" "This seems to be the inheritance of an ancient emperor, and it's an extremely powerful inheritance. Every step taken in this space is incomparably difficult, but the moment you step in, you'll feel a mysterious energy, and even some strange scenes. I'm not sure what's going on, but senior brother, you'll know after you try it." Jun Mingchen spoke to Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin turned his gaze ahead, only to see that within this flowing golden light, there were several silhouettes currently walking forward with great difficulty. It was as though every step they took was an immense challenge to them. "What's the situation over there? Why are there so many people here?" Hua Taishu asked Qin Wenyin. The Brahma Heavenly Emperor set up a total of 9 inheritances, and each person can only obtain one portion of the inheritance. Before we came here, there were only 2 remaining. Now, both Zi Daoyang and Zhan Peng have obtained them. Hence, the others have all gathered here, Qin Wenyin replied, and Hua Taishu instantly understood. It's really the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor? A strange light flashed in Hua Taishu's eyes. What a pity, there were no more inheritances left. He stared at Qin Wenyin, Qing Er, and Nam Huang Yunxi. The 3 of them actually didn't manage to obtain any of the inheritances? This seemed a little strange. It's indeed the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Not only that, the inheritance here definitely wouldn't be simple. Qin Wenyin stared at the golden body before him as he asked, "What is that golden body?" "Senior Brother Qin, I told you that you will know after you try." "Go ahead," Jun Mingchen said to Qin Wenyin, seemingly trying to encourage him to try. "All right." Qin Wenyin nodded. His eyes flickered as he stepped toward the golden light ahead. The intense light instantly enveloped him. In just an instant, the space seemed to have changed. Qin Wenyin faintly felt that he had appeared in another fixed space. In this place, many geniuses were in different directions, and all of them were struggling to move forward step by step. In front of them, the golden figure floated there, but there was an incomparably terrifying power emanating from it. It was as if one could immediately feel the existence of a strange pressure when they got close to it. Boom! Qin Wenyin stepped forward, yet he felt that he wasn't close enough to the golden figure. A beam of intense light blasted over, directly blasting into Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wenyan basically didn't have time to resist. The golden figure radiated a terrifying beam of light, causing his body to violently tremble. That beam of light that blasted into his body caused him to feel an incomparably powerful force. Qin Wenyan was somewhat taken aback. What was going on? He continued walking forward. The golden figure was still floating at its original location, as though the distance between them hadn't changed at all. However, another beam of terrifying light blasted into Qin Wenyan's body. Qin Wenyan's body glowed with an intense light. He could faintly sense that there was an astonishing amount of energy hidden within his body that could erupt at any moment. What the hell is going on? Clearly, Qin Wenyan hadn't expected such a situation to occur. He walked forward step by step. He found that the distance between him and the body made of pure gold was still the same. It was so close, yet so far away. His aura grew stronger and stronger. Beams of light blasted into his body, causing his entire body to contain an astonishing might. It was extremely terrifying. However, the more it was like this, the more he seemed to be able to sense the supreme pressure emanating from the golden body. He faintly felt that his body was out of control, as if his power was about to be replaced by the power that the golden body shot into his body. Boom! With a loud sound, the power in Qin Wenyan's body was instantly removed. His body seemed to have encountered an extremely terrifying heavy blow, causing his body to explosively retreat. It was as though he had been struck out of that wondrous space in an instant. Even after he came out, he still stumbled backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood. It was as though there was a stifling feeling in his body. What the hell? Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared ahead. At this moment, everything became clear again. It was as though everything earlier was just a dream, yet it truly existed. Only now did he truly sense that he was extremely close to the golden figure. That golden figure seemed to be a terrifying existence, waiting for someone to awaken it. Not only Qin Wenyan, there were many geniuses who tried to break free from the golden figure. All of them were injured and felt their auras fluctuating unstably. All of them inclined their heads and stared ahead, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. That mysterious gray-robed old man once said that the existence who fought against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was an unparalleled character. In the boundless immortal realms, there was only one who could fight against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. In fact, after the two of them fought, the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, who was unrivaled in the immortal realms, had fallen. For such a character to leave behind a mysterious golden figure in this place, there would definitely be a deeper meaning behind it. It was just that the profoundness behind it was extremely hard to fathom. One could only depend on themselves to comprehend it. Senior brother, how is it? Jun Mingchen smiled at Qin Wenyan. Both he and Hua Taishu had experienced it before and knew how mysterious the golden figure was. I still have no way to understand what secrets are hidden within. Let me try again. Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he continued forward. Once again he entered a mysterious space. The golden figure seemed to be an extremely ancient existence, quietly floating there yet exuding a towering might. Qin Wenyan stared at the golden figure before him. He adjusted his breathing and took another step forward. When the mystical energy entered his body, he channeled it into his body, circulating it throughout his entire body before continuing forward. After doing this many times, a tyrannical aura radiated from Qin Wenyan. He drew in a deep breath and adjusted the energy in his body. His bloodline surged as though he wanted to transform that mystical energy into his own. His body glowed with a golden light, and he could faintly sense that the energy within the golden figure was resonating with him. What a powerful aura! What exactly is this golden figure? Qin Wenyan sighed in his heart. He took another step forward and with a rumbling sound, an even more terrifying energy entered his body, wanting to break through his limits. This energy almost broke the balance of Qin Wenyan's body, causing him to groan in misery as he almost coughed out another mouthful of blood. However, he managed to stabilize himself. His blood surged and rumbled as sounds rang out. Qin Wenyan's heart pounded rapidly, as though the heart of the golden figure was beating as well, causing his heart to resonate with it. Qin Wenyan's heartbeat accelerated, as though it was about to jump out of his body. Qin Wentian's blood surged frenziedly as he stared at the golden figure, his eyes filled with awe. Pooh! Finally, he coughed out a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. Qin Wentian's body was blasted away once more, unable to withstand that terrifying pressure. What sort of existence is that? Someone at the side mumbled. Qin Wentian's experience was the same as the others. He tried to break through again and again, only to fail again and again. That floating golden figure seemed to be an ancient existence, like an undying king that had eternal life. Test, this must be another type of test, just like the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's trial. Someone replied. Isn't such a test a little too strange? How can this be considered a test? How do we pass the test? Another genius asked. Have you guys heard of the casting body? At this moment, a melodious voice rang out. The person who spoke was none other than Nam Huang Yunxi. Earlier when Qin Wenyan tried, she had also tried it and was similarly shocked in her heart. Casting body? The expressions of everyone froze as they stared at Nam Huang Yunxi. As the descendants of immortal kings and emperors, although they didn't think in this direction, they had clearly heard of this before. When Nam Huang Yunxi said this, their hearts trembled as well. Is there really a casting body? The voice of a genius trembled slightly. Although he said this, he could also sense that this situation was similar to a casting body. It was just that they didn't dare to imagine it. They were able to encounter a casting body in this place. What is a casting body? Qin Wenyan asked, his words causing many to stare at Qin Wenyan in bewilderment. This person was also a character whose name shook the entire city of ancient emperors, yet he actually didn't know what a casting body was? What identity did this Qin Wenyan have exactly? Nam Huang Yunxi turned her gaze to Qin Wenyan as she spoke. In the immortal realms, there are some people with heaven-defying physiques with unparalleled talent. In our city of ancient emperors, there are many such geniuses. However, there are also many people who have shocking potential and are able to establish a unique physique. It's just that they have yet to fully awaken their potential. The stronger the physique, the more difficult it is to establish a casting body, and the more terrifying it would be. The situation before us is very similar to the rumors of casting body. Does this mean that the person before us is a supreme character who wants to establish a casting body for everyone? Qin Wenyan exclaimed. You are thinking too much. How can a casting body be so simple? It's already extremely good if there's even one person who succeeds. The prerequisite for a casting body is that stellar martial cultivators must first have shocking potential. Nam Huang Yunxi rolled her eyes at Qin Wenyan. If my guess isn't wrong, this place is really a casting body. In that case, the degree of terror of this inheritance wouldn't lose out to the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance. To obtain the inheritance, one must first succeed in establishing a casting body. How shocking is this? Nam Huang Yunxi was ranked number 3 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even she felt shock in her heart. However, Qin Wenyan was already prepared in his heart. This inheritance was already extremely shocking. It wouldn't be strange if a casting body appeared. Chapter 943. The various geniuses quietly listened to Nam Huang Yunxi's words. For those who had heard of the body casting technique before, they had also experienced that mysterious energy when they stepped into the golden light. They could faintly sense that what Nam Huang Yunxi had said was true, that the miraculous scene before them was truly a body casting technique. If this is really a body casting technique, then that golden body. The gazes of the various experts turned to stare at the golden body floating in the air as their hearts pounded. This golden body is the physique you all need to complete the body casting technique. Once it's formed, it would allow supreme geniuses to have an unrivaled physique. To think that there would actually be such a hegemonic character in the city of ancient emperors, being able to help geniuses with the body casting technique. Such an expert would definitely have a heaven-shaking physique, allowing the later generations to use the body casting technique. Also, this ancient emperor and the Brahma Heavenly Emperor stood opposite each other. Most probably, they were rivals in the past and both of them left behind their inheritances. How could they not be moved? The hearts of the various experts trembled. What sort of supreme character was the Brahma heavenly emperor? He killed 8 immortal emperors in the immortal realms alone, unexcelled in the world and unexcelled in the immortal realms. Who could obstruct him? But at this moment, everyone faintly felt that there was a supreme character who could stand equally against the Brahma heavenly emperor, leaving behind an inheritance here, waiting for someone to unearth it. When they thought of this, the hearts of everyone pounded as an intense sense of anticipation appeared in their hearts. The Brahma heavenly emperor's inheritance was split into 9 parts, and the person who obtained it was merely one of the 9 inheritors. But this inheritance before their eyes, once the body casting technique was successful, it would be the only one. In addition, there might even be more good fortune after that. How could they not be moved? The various experts clenched their fists tightly as they stared at the golden body. Their eyes flashed with a blazing light. They had to succeed in the body casting technique and transform into a supreme existence like that golden body. For those who succeeded in the body casting technique, the probability of them becoming immortals was almost 100%. They would definitely step into the immortal foundation realm, and after that, their combat prowess would be incomparably powerful, far surpassing those on the same level as them. This would allow them to continue their status as geniuses when they were at the celestial phenomenon realm. The prerequisite for all of this was that they had to succeed in the body casting technique. Is there a secret to casting the body? Jun Mengchen asked Nam Huang Yunshi. His eyes flashed. He was also looking forward to it. This was a pure emperor's aura. His physique must also be an emperor's physique, possessing unparalleled abilities. Before this, they had all clearly felt the terrifying might contained within his golden body. It was extremely powerful. Body forging is just a legend. It's hard to come by even once in 1,000 years, so how could there be a secret to it? Even if there really was someone with the secret to body forging, do you think they would tell you? Nam Huang Yunshi was incomparably arrogant as she glanced at Jun Mengchen, causing Jun Mengchen to stare blankly for a moment before smiling awkwardly. That's right, Nam Huang Yunshi didn't have any. Even if she did, although Nam Huang Yunshi was an ally, how could she be so close to him as to tell him the secrets of the body forging technique? Seems like I can only search for it myself. Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. Thinking back to the words of the gray-robed old man, he was filled with curiosity towards this ancient emperor who had contended against the Brahma heavenly emperor. It was just that he didn't know the title of this ancient emperor. I must definitely establish an unparalleled physique. At the side, the number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang, was clenching his fists as a brilliant light gleamed in his eyes. Right now, Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie had their own miraculous encounters. Nanfeng Yunshi's physique was also extremely unique, while Qing E was an innate immortal king. Although he cultivated the heavenly mystic mirror art, he had no advantage against these people. Only by forging an unparalleled physique would he have a chance of defeating them. The battle against Qing E in the Shao sect's territory caused Xian Yang to feel extremely defeated. Xiao Lingyue, who was beside Xian Yang, also had a sharp glint in her eyes. The hatred between her, Xian Yang and Qin Wendian was extremely deep, yet they pretended not to notice it. This was because they knew that they had no way to deal with Qin Wendian. Right now, Nam Huang Yunshi, Qing E, and Qin Wendian were the same alliance leader. How tyrannical was their strength? She, the number 6 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, was already the subject of much discussion in the city of ancient emperors. This was her chance. The various geniuses all had their own thoughts, but their conviction was the same. They wanted to establish an unparalleled physique and obtain the inheritance of an ancient emperor. Another group of geniuses stepped out, bringing with them an intense conviction as they flew towards the floating golden body, attempting to establish an unparalleled physique. Let's not waste any more time. Even if we fail, it's better to try again. Qin Wendian spoke. The geniuses around him all nodded in agreement, and after that, they all flew towards the golden light. The scene from before appeared once again. They seemed to be in a different space, and in their eyes, there was only that extremely ancient golden body that contained boundless might. That golden body was the perfect physique they needed to establish. If they succeeded, they would be able to transform into him, and their bodies would contain boundless might. Qin Wenyin took a step out as a bright light flashed, penetrating into his body. That mysterious energy appeared once again, causing him to feel that his body was filled with an external source of energy. It was as though his perception of the golden body had grown stronger. This feeling grew stronger and stronger with each step he took, causing him to feel even more sensitive. Qin Wenyin stepped out step by step. He was thinking that only after he successfully established his physique would he be able to truly walk to the side of the golden body. As he took each step, the light continued to blast into his body. Faint rumbling sounds rang out from his body, growing stronger and stronger. His perception of the golden body grew stronger as well, as though there was an ancient might pressing down on him. Thump, 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 thump. Qin Wenyin meticulously sensed it. This feeling was extremely mystical. It felt like this wasn't his own heartbeat, but rather he was sensing the heartbeat of the golden body, causing the changes in his body to occur. This feeling grew stronger and stronger. The thump, 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 thump. Qin Wenyin felt as though there was a violent storm raging within his body. He even felt as though he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. This level of might is so terrifying. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. The aura in his body was being pushed to the limits. His blood surged and rumbled unceasingly. Regardless of his body or his heart, a fearsome demonic might gushed forth from Qin Wenyin, causing his aura to grow even stronger, unexcelled in this world. His roars shook the heavens. Qin Wenyin stepped out once more. Only by advancing courageously would he be able to unravel the secrets hidden within the golden body. There was no secret formula, no other method, he could only try. White flames surrounded Qin Wenyan's body and gradually emerged, as if trying to calm Qin Wenyan's violent body. However, it was useless. The storm-like power seemed to penetrate his body and make him explode, completely destroying him. Rurar! The terrifying protective power of the demonic beast appeared, and Qin Wenyan's robes were torn apart. His body seemed to grow larger, growing to a height of 300 meters. His aura grew even more powerful. He took a step forward, causing the heavens and earth to rumble, and the people around him coughed up blood. It was as though they were affected by his power and could no longer withstand it. Once again, Qin Wenyin took another step forward. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wenyin felt that he was one step closer to the golden body. This was an extremely mystical feeling. He could clearly sense the immense might contained within the golden body. That was an incomparably pure might of an emperor, a might that could look down on everything beneath the heavens, possessing boundless might. But precisely because he could sense it more clearly, the pressure he had to endure grew even more terrifying. The energy that gushed into his body started to move, not under Qin Wenyan's control. It was circulating on its own in a startling manner, as though it wanted to harmonize with the energy within the golden body. This caused Qin Wenyin to truly understand the meaning of the word body forging. With every circulation, Qin Wenyin would feel the aura in his body growing stronger by a notch. After a few more cycles, Qin Wenyan's spirit and body were stretched taut to the extreme. Finally, with a deafening boom, his entire body trembled violently as he was flung through the air. All the sensations vanished in an instant, and the mystical energy transformed into the strongest backlash, wanting to crush Qin Wenyin. Xian Yang stood not far away from Qin Wenyin. When he saw how ruthlessly Qin Wenyin was flung through the air, a cold smile flickered in his eyes. After all, Qin Wenyin was merely at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. Although God's hand could increase his combat prowess, he was still lacking if he wanted to temper his body. The other silhouettes in the surroundings all silently mocked when they saw the scene of Qin Wenyin being forced back. Even if they were forced back, they wouldn't have such a huge reaction. Seems like Qin Wenyin clearly didn't have enough strength, yet he stubbornly persisted. At the very end, when he couldn't hold on any longer, he ended up in such a miserable state. Qin Wenyin was truly in an extremely miserable state this time around. It felt as though his entire body was about to be penetrated by that energy. Fresh blood gushed out from his wounds as he lay on the ground, coughing out blood unceasingly. After which, he struggled to sit up and circulated his energy to regulate his breathing, gradually recovering from his injuries. Many people in the surroundings stared at Qin Wenyin in bewilderment. So many people attacked, but it seemed that Qin Wenyin was the only one who suffered the most. Could it be that this person truly lived up to his reputation? However, Qin Wenyin naturally wouldn't care about what others thought of him. This time around, he was extremely satisfied. He could already sense the power of his golden body, and the energy in his body was circulating on its own. This was clearly the manifestation of the initial stage of tempering his body. Sadly, he wasn't able to endure for too long and finally failed. But he believed that as long as he broke through his limits every time, he would eventually succeed. As for those who had mocking expressions on their faces, it was only because they were ignorant. They had no way to reach that level. Yet, they didn't know that if one wanted to wear the crown, one had to bear the weight of the crown. Chapter 944. The golden body seemed to be an eternal existence, floating in the air within the cave. Nobody knew who would be able to establish an unparalleled physique. The geniuses tried again and again, only to fail again and again. Regardless of the number 3 ranker, Nam Huang Yunxi, or the number 4 ranker, Xian Yang, no matter how hard they tried, they still had no way to establish an unparalleled physique. In fact, they couldn't even get close to it. Time flowed unceasingly. Some people were already disheartened, no longer harboring any hope that they would be able to establish an unparalleled physique. Their boiling blood gradually cooled down, no longer filled with anticipation. Reality was always different from their dreams. Once a bucket of cold water was poured over their heads, many people would easily feel dispirited. Naturally, true experts wouldn't cower in the slightest. Even if they knew that they might never be able to achieve it, they would still continue to trying to break through their limits. This was their conviction. In their lives, they could fail, but the word give up would never appear in their minds. Qin Wenyin had attempted to break through several times, yet he failed every time. Not only that, he would be heavily injured every time he failed. If one were to talk about how miserable it was, he would definitely be the most miserable out of all the geniuses. But even so, Qin Wenyin still persisted. Every time he tried, he could feel himself improving, getting closer and closer to his goal. At this moment, in the mysterious space, Qin Wenyan's entire body was emitting a terrifying buzzing sound. It was like a tsunami was madly crashing into his body. His body shone with a brilliant light as the energy within circulated unceasingly. He could already clearly feel the energy flowing within the golden body, as though they were resonating with each other. Indestructible. A strange feeling appeared in Qin Wenyan's heart. It was as though the golden body was an indestructible body that would never be destroyed. As the energy flowed within his body, runic light flashed around him. The eyes of many in the surroundings gleamed with sharpness when they saw that Qin Wenyin was closer to his goal than them. Regardless of Xian Yang or Shaoling Yue, both of their countenances turned ashen. Before this, they were silently mocking Qin Wenyin in their hearts. But now, they saw the terrifying might circulating around Qin Wenyan's body. This faintly gave them a strange feeling. Qin Wenyan's body seemed to be resonating with the golden body. If at some point in time, this resonance would be the moment when Qin Wenyin successfully completed his body tempering. Their enemy, Qin Wenyin, was actually the one with the highest possibility of succeeding. Xian Yang's eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. He advanced forward with a frenzied speed, as though he didn't care about anything else. He no longer circulated the heavenly mystic mirror art to defend against the incoming energy. It seemed that he had been wrong from the start. This energy couldn't be defended against, it should be endured and sensed instead. In the cavern in front of them, the atmosphere had long since quietened down. Everyone had already left because there were no more inheritances. Emo Xie, Zi Deyang, Zhan Peng, and Little Rascal were quietly immersing themselves in the power of their respective inheritances. Finally, on one of the inheritances, a terrifying gaze abruptly opened. This person was none other than Emo Xie, who had been the inheritor for a very long time. The sharpness of his eyes gleamed with a light that caused people to feel fear in their hearts. Emo Xie glanced at Zi Daoyang, Zhan Peng, and Little Rascal, instantly imprinting their images into his mind. These two, as well as the demonic beast, would all become his sacrificial offerings, stepping stones on his path of growth. Even when he was looking at Zi Daoyang, Emo Xie's gaze was filled with devilish intent, and even a little evil. Zi Daoyang, the number 1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, actually wanted to snatch the inheritance from him. In that case, the ending would be the same. Emo Xie slowly walked out and walked down from the inheritance seat. He glanced at the 9-headed gigantic demonic beast, his cold eyes devoid of any emotions. Even though he had obtained the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, he wouldn't feel the slightest bit of gratitude. He was Emo Xie, he believed in strength, and he believed in himself. If he didn't have strength, he wouldn't be able to obtain this inheritance. If he was weak, he wouldn't be able to protect his inheritance. Everything had to be fought for by himself. In the future, he would have to fight for it himself. The Brahma Heavenly Emperor must be someone similar to him. If not, he wouldn't have split his inheritance into 9 parts, allowing the 9 inheritors to kill and devour each other. How cruel was this, and how difficult was this? Those who could obtain his inheritance were all extraordinary characters. The moment they sat on the seats of inheritance, their fates were already destined to be one with a slim chance of survival. Emo Xie calmly turned and walked out, with no hints of reluctance. His heart was resolute. He had already memorized the 2 humans and 1 demon before him. There was no need for him to waste any more time here. Emo Xie walked past the cavern outside. The 8 ancient coffins quietly laid there, but he didn't bother with them. He continued walking out, and soon after he saw a beautiful figure with no aura at all. This figure floated there like a specter, staring at Emo Xie. Bzz. That flawlessly beautiful figure directly flew towards Emo Xie, only to see Emo Xie stretching out his palms as a terrifying black vortex manifested, wanting to devour the specter-like figure of this young woman. The young woman retreated backwards, quietly floating in the air as though she had never moved at all. Which inheritor are you? And what level of strength have you reached now? Emo Xie's eyes were cold as he spoke to the mysterious female. With a single sentence, he already knew the origin of this mysterious female, and what was her purpose for coming here. The female didn't reply, she simply stared at Emo Xie. That beautiful face of hers exuded an imposing aura, like that of a female empress, causing people to not dare to profane her beauty. Even though she had a netherworld body, even though she had no aura, she still caused people to revere her and prostrate themselves in worship. Seems like you are at least at the king-ranked realm. This Brahma Heavenly Emperor is truly an idiot, thinking of such a sinister inheritance art. It's truly an agonizing thing to be hunted down by someone like you. Sadly, your true body has no way to enter the city of ancient emperors. If not, even if you stood guard here, there would only be a path of death for me. Emo Xie faintly spoke as he continued walking forward, no longer looking at the female. The mysterious female didn't move, she merely quietly watched as Emo Xie left. In her eyes, a silhouette appeared. It wasn't Emo Xie, but rather, it was Qin Wenyan. It was him who caused her to be unable to obtain the inheritance. She had originally possessed Namhuang Yunxi's body, and given Namhuang Yunxi's strength and control, she would definitely be able to obtain the inheritance. After Emo Xie exited the cave, he directly walked towards the opposite direction. Staring at the Emperor's aura, a cold smile flickered in his eyes. Did the Brahma Heavenly Emperor want his inheritor to compete against the inheritor of an ancient emperor? However, Emo Xie didn't merely want the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Emo Xie, it's Emo Xie. When Emo Xie stepped into the cave, the gazes of several geniuses turned to him as trepidation flickered in their eyes. This Emo Xie was an extremely ruthless character. He didn't even fear Zi Daoyang. But now, he had already obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, yet he was forced to come here. Mo Xie swept his gaze over the surroundings. After which, he stepped out, directly moving towards the golden figure ahead. He didn't want to waste even a single second. In just an instant, Mo Xie felt a terrifying surge of energy gushing into his body. His body circulated a terrifying black-colored light, akin to a devil armor. At the same time, countless runic inscriptions appeared on his body, and when the black-colored light entered his body, the energy circulating within Mo Xie's body actually devoured it, transforming it into his own. Mo Xie's countenance was incomparably sharp. He wanted to use the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor to seize the inheritance of this place. He stepped out step by step, and very swiftly, he had already taken many steps. Upon seeing this scene, the geniuses all felt dispirited. It was extremely difficult for them to take each step, yet Mo Xie was already so terrifying even though this was his first time here. However, as Mo Xie continued, he gradually slowed down. A terrifying roaring energy seemed to be born within his body, shaking the heavens and earth, causing his body to tremble. He closed his eyes and quietly sensed his surroundings, while at the same time, he continued to convert his energy to sense the golden figure. Will of indestructibility, is it trying to forge an indestructible physique for me? Mo Xie mumbled. He swept his gaze over the people in the surroundings and spoke, I'm here, the inheritance belongs to me. Tyrannical, arrogant. Since he was here, the inheritance would belong to him. Others couldn't obtain it, nor could they. Mo Xie, you've already obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Why are you here to compete for it? Xian Yang stared at Mo Xie as he spoke. Mo Xie swept a glance at him as he coldly replied, So what? You, Xian Yang, aren't qualified to obtain the inheritance of this place. Do. Xian Yang's countenance was incredibly ugly to behold. This Mo Xie was simply too arrogant. A cold light flashed in Mo Xie's eyes. After which, he pointed his finger at Xian Yang, as a black-colored tribulation light directly penetrated through space, shooting towards Xian Yang. The heavenly mystic mirror art was unleashed, yet Mo Xie merely snorted coldly. His finger continued jabbing out, as beams of black-colored tribulation light containing terrifying destructive might blasted towards the same location. With a cracking sound, the heavenly mystic mirror art was broken apart. Xian Yang's countenance paled, and he could only give up. His body could no longer support itself as he was flung backwards. Tyrannical. The expressions of the crowd froze, as an intense fear flashed in their eyes. This ruthless man was truly tyrannical. Only to see Mo Xie's eyes flickering. He turned his gaze onto Qin Wenin as he spoke, You are the one with the highest chance of obtaining the body forging. However, that was before I arrived. At this moment, Qin Wenin was under immense pressure. He didn't even glance at Mo Xie as he faintly replied, Who said that only one person can obtain the body forging technique? If you feel that you have the highest chance, you can give it a try. Mo Xie coldly laughed. I won't take the risk. No matter what, the first person to obtain the body forging technique has to be me. You entered this place earlier than him, hence, you are not allowed to take another step forward. If you want to give it a try, wait until I reach the same level as you. Wait for you? A cold light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. What if I say no? I've said it before, I'm here, the inheritance belongs to me. Mo Xie coldly stated. How could he miss out on such an opportunity? Since he was here, he would never allow others to seize the inheritance. Chapter 945. Qin Wendian stared at Mo Xie. His pitch-black eyes flickered with a ruthless and dangerous aura. Black light circulated around him, exuding an intent of destruction. This number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, as well as having obtained one of the 9 great inheritances of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. His ambition wasn't in any way inferior to Zi Daoyang. Since he was here, the inheritance belonged to him. Mo Xie could sense that Qin Wenin was already at the front of the crowd, and was the one closest to the inheritance. But since he, Xie, was here, everyone had to make way for him. Boom! Qin Wenyan stepped out as a heaven-shaking might gushed forth from him. His aura was strengthened to the extreme, and his bloodline power circulated around him. Runic light flashed as a cold light flickered in his eyes. Since he was already here, if Xie wanted him to retreat, he would retreat. If Xie wanted him to wait, did he really need to wait? Xie stared at the obsession in Qin Wenyan's eyes. His gaze turned cold as a terrifying black light circulated around his finger, exuding a fearsome aura. After which, he pointed a finger at Qin Wenyan. In that instant, Qin Wenyan felt a supreme calamity might blasting over, containing a fearsome destructive might. That finger was like a devil king, transforming into a beam of destructive devil light that shot towards him. Qin Wenyan circulated his strength to the extreme. Rumbling sounds rang out as his aura surged up into the sky. It was as though he had formed a resonance with the golden figure in front of him. His finger stabbed out as well, and a white beam of light containing the power to purify everything shot out, colliding with the black finger light. Qin Wenyan's body trembled violently. He was already under immense pressure, and now that he was being harassed by Xie, his aura fluctuated uncontrollably. He can actually borrow power? A pitch-black light flashed in Xie's eyes. Terrifying runic light gushed forth from his body as a miraculous constellation manifested. He was like a supreme calamity devil, a truly terrifying devil. His surroundings were filled with calamity light, and when this calamity devil stared at Qin Wenyan, boundless devil tribulation light erupted forth. The pitch-black destructive light was like a devil war spear, capable of piercing through everything, annihilating everything as it frenziedly shot towards Qin Wenyan. A resplendent golden light flashed as a diagram appeared in front of Qin Wenyan. This was none other than the immortal slaying diagram unleashed by Qin. The pitch-black light of destruction was frenziedly devoured by the immortal slaying diagram before being expelled by the spatial energy. Upon seeing this scene, Xie's eyes flashed with sharpness. He glanced at Qin as he spoke, immortal slaying diagram, that should be the disciple of Matriarch Ji, Princess Qin, right? As he spoke, the might of his constellation grew increasingly terrifying. At the same time, he stretched out his palms as boundless devilish runes of darkness manifested. His palms transformed into a pitch-black vortex that extended outwards. The shadow of his palms directly imprinted itself onto the immortal slaying diagram, causing the spatial energy contained within the diagram to rapidly dissipate and be absorbed into the devilish runes. The spectators felt their hearts trembling as they watched the battle unfold. Even ordinary geniuses would find it hard to stabilize themselves, yet these few people were actually fighting as they advanced. Not only that, Xie's strength was truly terrifying, he was actually able to devour the energy within the immortal slaying diagram. Gradually, the might of the immortal slaying diagram grew weaker and weaker, while at the same time, the devilish runes of Xie grew even more resplendent. Xie lifted his palms and blasted out. His terrifying palm imprint seemed to contain a fearsome spatial energy, directly tearing space apart as it blasted towards Qin Wenyan. At this moment, Qin countenance was extremely cold. That attack was simply too fast, arriving in an instant. Qin Wenyan abruptly took a step forward, welcoming the attack head-on. With a thunderous boom, he lifted his palms and blasted out a terrifying attack, yet it was directly shattered by the attack. His body finally lost its balance, and with a thunderous boom, he was once again flung through the air under the pressure from both sides. Upon seeing this scene, the countenances of the geniuses all flickered. With the arrival of Xie, Qin Wenyan, who originally had the highest chance of obtaining a new physique, was now being reduced to a supporting character. This Xie was the number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings and had cultivated the supreme calamity devil arts. His attacks and defenses were terrifying, and now that he had obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, he most probably wouldn't be afraid of Zi Daoyang. The profoundness contained within that earlier attack should be none other than the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. After devouring the energy of the immortal slaying diagram, his attack actually contained spatial energy within. How terrifying! The countenances of Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian and the others all changed as they stared at Emosia. Emosia ignored all the gazes on him and was staring at the golden body before him. This physique was a perfect match for the energy he cultivated. An indestructible physique. The heavens were truly helping him. If he could obtain it, he would be invincible in terms of both offense and defense, and there would be no suspense in him ascending to the top of the immortal ascension rankings. If he didn't obtain the inheritance, he might not have a chance of victory when Zi Daoyang came out. After all, Zi Daoyang was also currently receiving the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Qin Wendian was blasted back to the outside. His gaze was fixated on Emosia as a terrifying flame flickered in his eyes. For those ranked higher in the immortal ascension rankings, their strength would be even more terrifying. He had once defeated the number 5 ranker, Shaoling Yue, and had also fought against Xian Yang. Emosia wasn't on the same level as them, but he was on the same level as Zi Daoyang. Not only that, his strength was also extremely terrifying. If not, it would be impossible for him to enter the depths of the underworld mountains alone and seize the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Closing his eyes, Qin Wendian quietly sensed the strength in his body. At the same time, he was also contemplating the situation he had encountered earlier. That golden body was terrifying to the extreme. It was the perfect form of an astonishing physique. If he could obtain it, his strength would definitely soar to the next level. At this moment, Qin Wendian was extremely calm. He didn't act rashly and fight against Emosia. Emosia was indeed worthy of being the number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and he had also obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Step by step, he didn't exit the Immortal Ascension rankings at all. It was as though he wanted to obtain the inheritance in a single move. Finally, Emosia also felt a terrifying pressure. The golden body formed a resonance with his own, causing the energy in his body to transform and his heartbeat to quicken. Cold light flickered in Qing's eyes when she saw Emosia's actions. A terrifying energy gushed forth from her as she lifted her hands and blasted out a fist that tore through space, directly smashing towards Emosia. Emosia's countenance changed. He abruptly turned his head and blasted out a palm strike as he roared in rage, "How dare you! You can't allow others to do the things you've done before." Namhuang Yunxi also spoke in a cold tone. She pointed her finger forward, and a dazzling beam of fiery light slashed out, wanting to kill Emosia. Emosia lifted both his hands and blasted out explosively. Boundless devil tribulation light blasted forth, wanting to destroy everything. However, he was finally unable to suppress the violent energy in his body. With a deafening boom, he groaned in misery and coughed out fresh blood as he was flung through the air, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. Who would have thought that Princess Qing would be so ruthless? She was actually waiting for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow to Emosia. If she doesn't allow Qin Wendian to take the lead, Emosia, can forget about taking the lead as well. The spectators all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. Emosia was forced back, coughing out several mouthfuls of blood. His pitch-black eyes gleamed with a terrifying cold light as he stared at Namhuang Yunxi and Qin before turning his gaze onto Qin Wendian. Namhuang Yunxi, number 3 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Daughter of the Evergreen Immortal Ascension rankings, number 5 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Very good. Emosia walked step by step towards Qin Wendian. Qin had already automatically retreated and stood beside Qin Wendian. Namhuang Yunxi also walked over, exuding a devilish aura as she stared at Emosia. "Do you guys want to join forces to fight against me? Let me see how strong you guys are then." Emosia icily spoke. Both his arms danced as a boundless destructive devil might gushed forth from him. The Calamity Devil appeared once more in the air, incomparably terrifying. Chi-chi. Terrifying calamity light flashed. Emosia grabbed out in the air as a gigantic Calamity Devil saber appeared. Boundless might engulfed the heavens and earth, causing the surrounding space to be torn apart. He lifted his hand and slashed towards Qing Er, only to see that at this moment, Qing Er's entire body was shrouded in a holy light as a three-colored qi appeared above her head. Her palms blasted out as the immortal slaying diagram appeared. At this moment, the diagram was even more terrifying than before. Boundless spatial light tore everything apart, colliding with the Calamity Devil saber. But even so, the spatial energy was on the verge of being sliced apart. Namhuang Yunxi's silhouette flickered. She stabbed out with her finger as an incomparably beautiful ancient phoenix appeared, directly tearing towards Mo Xie. Mo Xie lifted his other hand as a supreme devil might gushed forth. Terrifying devil runes devoured everything as he raised his hand up to the sky. He roared in rage, "I truly want to see how the two most famous beauties on the Immortal Ascension rankings have the strength to obstruct me." As he spoke, his palms frenziedly stretched out in the air as the Calamity Devil energy transformed into countless devil sabers. With a wave of his hand, all the sabers slashed towards the Immortal Slaying Diagram. The Immortal Slaying Diagram shot towards him as a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering collision occurred. Namhuang Yunxi stabbed out with her finger once more. An incomparably resplendent fiery red light enveloped Mo Xie's body. However, terrifying devil tribulation energy circulated around his body, causing him to be indestructible, akin to a supreme devil lord. Ha! At this moment, the Calamity Devil laughed uproariously. It was as though he had released everything, directly devouring Namhuang Yunxi's fiery red light. This was simply incomparably tyrannical, causing Namhuang Yunxi's countenance to change. But at this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly snapped open. Runic light erupted from his palms as the terrifying god's hand manifested. He activated the battle art as his bloodline thrummed. He stood up and stepped out, resembling a wind rock as he rushed towards Mo Xie. Scram! Mo Xie roared. The constellation Calamity Devil slashed out with terrifying might, yet Qin Wenin only saw God's hand blasting out with boundless might, capable of annihilating everything as it shot towards Mo Xie. Upon seeing this scene, Mo Xie's countenance drastically changed. What kind of attack was this? How could it be so powerful? Qing Er and Namhuang Yunxi both unleashed their attacks at the same instant. Mo Xie retracted the energy in his palms, protecting his body that was tempered by the devil tribulation energy. However, Qin Wentian's body directly blasted out with God's hand. Mo Xie howled in rage as a thunderous boom rang out. His body was flung through the air, on the verge of shattering as fresh blood splattered through the air. Chapter 946. The various geniuses were all speechless when they saw this scene. Namhuang Yunxi, Qing Er, and Qin Wentian stood together against their enemies. Even the number 2 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Mo Xie, who had obtained the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, was still injured. The combat prowess of these 3 was extremely powerful. Any one of them had the combat prowess of someone ranked within the top 6 of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Earlier, Mo Xie was incomparably arrogant. Now that he was here, the inheritance belonged to him, and nobody could seize it. How tyrannical was that? Before this, when Qin Wentian neared the golden body, he attacked, injuring Qin Wentian. After which, Qing Er returned the favor, and Namhuang Yunxi also attacked, forcing him out. Finally, Qin Wentian used God's hand to heavily injure Mo Xie. At this moment, Mo Xie was staggering, his countenance somewhat pale. He wiped the traces of blood from the corner of his lips. Even his body that was forged from Calamity Devil energy had been broken through. His sinister eyes stared at the 3 opponents before him, gleaming with a terrifying light. Very good, your strength isn't too bad. The inheritance is here, and only those who are capable can seize it. Since you are here, you want everyone else to give up their positions for you? Since this is the case, you should be able to obtain it as well. Namhuang Yunxi spoke with cold arrogance. This golden body was the perfect state of her physique, able to resonate with Wu Xiu, allowing her to obtain an unparalleled physique. This Mo Xie was dreaming if he wanted others to give up their positions for him. Nam Huang Yunxi, since you put it this way, I won't act before we seize the inheritance. Let's see who can obtain the unparalleled physique. Mo Xie swept his gaze over the three people before him, as though he was making a concession. Naturally, he knew that if he were to fight with the combined strength of the three of them, it would be extremely strenuous for him. Although it was just a short exchange, the three of them weren't ordinary people. They weren't people that could be defeated so easily. Since this is the case, I hope you will do as you say. Nam Huang Yunxi spoke with cold arrogance. After which, she turned to Qing'er and Qin Wendian, only to see Qin Wendian not saying anything. He turned and walked towards the golden light. Right now, the most important thing was to establish his physique. Fighting with Mo Xie now was simply a waste of time. Although the three of them had strong combat prowess, given Mo Xie's strength earlier, it was impossible for them to kill him. Qin Wendian drew in a deep breath. He actually closed his eyes as the aura of his bloodline circulated around him. After which, he walked step by step towards the golden light. In an instant, everything changed as the golden figure appeared in his perception. At this moment, Qin Wendian felt as though he was hallucinating. Maybe what he saw with his eyes earlier was an illusion. Everything he saw with his eyes was an illusion. This golden figure simply didn't exist. It didn't exist in any real space. It was just an illusory existence, an ideal existence, a perfect physique that only existed in his perception. Hence, no matter how he moved forward, he wouldn't be able to sense that he was nearing it. Only when his perception neared would he truly feel that he was nearing it. Qin Wendian took a step forward, as that mysterious energy gushed into his body once more. At this moment, Qin Wendian felt as though he had directly skipped a huge step. Rumbling sounds rang out from his body as another terrifying energy gushed into it. He could already clearly sense the terrifying might contained within that golden figure, as though it was right before his eyes. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Terrifying buzzing sounds rang out from Qin Wendian's body, trembling unceasingly, terrifying to the extreme. A tempestuous wave of energy engulfed his body, as though there was a mysterious energy resonating with the energy in his body. The mysterious energy circulated unceasingly within him. At this moment, in Qin Wendian's perception, he was standing right in front of the golden figure. He was so close that he could clearly sense this perfect physique, as well as the surging energy contained within it. It was as though the energy of this body would never dry up and would never be destroyed. Outside, all the geniuses were stunned when they saw this scene. They discovered that Qin Wendian had actually walked right in front of the golden figure. He was so close, it was as though if Qin Wendian stretched out his hand, he would be able to touch that golden figure. The spectators couldn't even clearly see how Qin Wendian had arrived there. It was as though he only took a step forward and suddenly arrived there, disregarding the distance between them. This was an extremely mysterious feeling, and no one could explain it clearly. However, could Qin Wendian really be able to forge such a physique? Mo Xie, who had stepped into the light, also saw this scene. His eyes narrowed as his pitch-black eyes turned exceptionally calm. He simply stared at Qin Wendian. There was no anger, no jealousy, he simply stared at Qin Wendian. This is an indestructible physique. If one can forge such a physique, there would definitely be other good fortune waiting for him. I have to obtain it no matter what. Mo Xie's will was unshakable. He used calamity devil energy to temper his body, causing his physique to be incomparably tyrannical. If he could forge such a physique just based on his physique alone, he would be invincible against those at the same level as him. Regardless of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor or this ancient emperor, the inheritances of these two ancient emperors were all prepared for him. After he obtained the inheritance, he would establish his immortal foundation in the city of ancient emperors and step into the immortal realm, truly starting his path of ascension. Mo Xie stood there motionlessly, simply observing Qin Wendian. Since this young man was able to do it a step earlier than him, there was definitely something worth him learning from. He wanted to comprehend how Qin Wendian did it. After staring at Qin Wendian for a long time, Mo Xie's pitch-black eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. After which, he closed his eyes just like Qin Wendian, circulating the energy in his body. An instant later, the geniuses only saw Mo Xie's silhouette flickering as a shocking scene appeared. His body was actually the same as Qin Wendian, appearing right in front of the golden body. Two of them, one standing at the side. The crowd was speechless. As expected of Mo Xie, what powerful comprehension abilities. Not long after Qin Wendian entered, he had already comprehended the mysteries within and achieved everything Qin Wendian did. Naturally, even if ordinary people could comprehend it, they wouldn't dare to be so brazen. Because their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand the impact of that energy. In fact, they might even die from the impact. Xian Yang stared at the two of them as a hint of jealousy flashed in his eyes. He was also ranked number 4 in the Immortal Ascension rankings, but ever since Qin Wendian rose to prominence and caused a storm in the city of ancient emperors, he, who was ranked number 4, had been constantly bumping into walls. Right now, this place seemed to have turned into a battle between Qin Wendian and Mo Xie. There was nothing for him, Xian Yang. This Qin Wendian, no matter where he was, would always be the center of attention, attracting the gazes of all the experts. This point also caused Xiaoling Yue, who was standing beside Xian Yang, to be infuriated. Back then, that inconspicuous existence in the city of ancient emperors had gradually become so dazzling that even she was enveloped by the light. At this moment, Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue both launched their attacks. They didn't want to believe that they were inferior to Qin Wendian in every aspect. Earlier, it was the god's hand. Now, it was the ancient emperor's inheritance. Many geniuses turned their gazes onto Xiaoling Yue. Seems like back then, Xiaoling Yue's actions against Qin Wendian were truly unreasonable. Qin Wendian had obtained the god's hand because of his talent, not luck. Nam Huang Yunxi, Qing, Hua Taishu, Jun Mingchen, Zi Qingxian, and the other geniuses were also doing their best. The body tempering art didn't say that only one person could succeed. Everyone had a chance. Time flowed by bit by bit. The majority of the geniuses who entered the underworld mountains were here. The other 2 humans and 1 demon obtained the Brahma Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, and the underworld mountains quietened down. The mysterious gray-robed old man had vanished, never appearing again. That netherworldly maiden had also vanished. The 8 immortal emperors lay quietly in their coffins, and in the blink of an eye, several months had passed. Before the golden body, not only Qin Wendian and Mo Xie, Nam Huang Yunxi, Qing'er, and Jun Mingchen had also appeared. Nam Huang Yunxi and Qing'er could understand, but the appearance of Jun Mingchen at that time was truly shocking. After all, as a friend of Qin Wendian, he had never shone with his radiance before. Only Qin Wendian alone shone brilliantly. On the contrary, the number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang, and Xiaoling Yue had never achieved this. Qin Wendian stood there with his eyes closed, with no distractions in his heart. Although the rumbling sounds were still ringing in his body, there seemed to be a mysterious energy circulating within him. It was no longer as chaotic as before. His entire body flowed with a terrifying light as his aura grew even stronger. Runic inscriptions revolved around him, giving people the feeling that he had a terrifying physique. At this moment, there seemed to be beams of light enveloping Qin Wendian. Although Qin Wendian could clearly sense the energy within, he had a feeling that his body had some sort of incompatibility with the golden body. "Look over there." At this moment, a voice of shock rang out. Mo Xie. Many geniuses abruptly stood up, their eyes filled with shock as they stared at the golden body. How powerful is Mo Xie going to succeed? The hearts of the spectators pounded as they saw Mo Xie's body floating in the air. Mo Xie didn't seem to be using any energy at all. His entire body was facing the golden body, as though there was a resonance between them. Mo Xie's entire body was enveloped by the golden light as a terrifying light radiated from him. It was as though he had truly begun to reforge his body. Mo Xie seemed to be the last one to arrive here. Through Qin Wendian, He managed to comprehend the method to attain the golden body. And now, he's actually going to temper his body? Emocia is already terrifying enough. If he succeeds in the tempering process and seizes the inheritances of the two emperors, how strong would he be? The hearts of the crowd trembled. It was simply impossible to imagine how terrifying Emocia would be in the future. Chapter 947. Emocia attracted the gazes of all the geniuses. His appearance instantly seized the limelight of everyone, just like what he had said. If Emocia was here, the inheritance would belong to him. No one else could touch it. Right now, Emocia was using his strength to verify this promise. Floating in the air, Emocia's body was currently resonating with the golden body. The energy in his body flowed to the surface of his skin, and the light circulating around him caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble in fear. Even though they weren't beside Emocia, they could still sense that his body was undergoing a transformation. He must be in the process of body forging. Emocia, can he succeed? The various geniuses silently mused. After so many days, many geniuses had already given up on forging their bodies. They had tried too many times, but many geniuses were unable to break through in terms of physique. This was the most basic of all, yet it had obstructed countless people. They had no way to withstand the power of resonance. This indicated that they didn't have the qualifications to forge an unparalleled physique. Firstly, they weren't qualified. The more time passed, the more geniuses discovered this point. They couldn't help but admit that when compared to the top rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings, there was still an insurmountable disparity between them. Qin Wentian's eyes were still tightly shut. His body was also flowing with a dazzling light, incomparably resplendent. However, he still wasn't able to achieve a deep resonance with the golden body in the air. It was as though he had no way to forge a physique. This scene caused Qin Wentian to feel extremely vexed. In truth, he had long sensed the might contained within the golden body. It was a type of undying energy that could allow one's physique to become perfect, and allow one's vitality to become even more terrifying. If one could forge such a physique, they would be able to easily suppress existences on the same level as them. Even if it was just the aura they exuded, they would still be able to crush opponents on the same level. Namhuang Yunxi and Jun Mingchen's bodies had also undergone some changes. Namhuang Yunxi's entire body was covered in a red glow that soared to the heavens. Blazing flames enveloped her soft and beautiful body. The shadow of a beautiful phoenix appeared, draped in auspicious clouds and rays of light, giving off a sense of beauty. Her beauty was incomparable, dignified and sacred. Jun Mingchen's body was covered with a king's armor, and the clear sky worldly diagram appeared behind him, giving off a supreme emperor's might. He was like a king who ruled over a part of the world, desiring to rule over the world. His body seems to have changed as well. Looks like this person is not simple. Some people noticed the changes in Jun Mingchen's body and were somewhat astonished. Jun Mingchen was constantly giving them surprises. Boundless runic light flowed around Jun Mingchen's body, yet it wasn't compatible with the golden body. Although there was a resonance, it was as though he was walking on his own path. Jun Mingchen's personality was carefree and unrestrained, and he didn't like too many restrictions. If he liked something, then he liked it. If he didn't like it, then he didn't like it. Although he had arrived before the golden body, he could sense that he wasn't suited for it. Hence, he didn't have an intense desire to forge a new body. He simply allowed the energy in his body to flow freely, not guiding it, letting nature take its course. But after that, the changes in his body were something that even he didn't expect. Time flowed, and in the blink of an eye, over 10 days had passed. Everything was the same as before, but Emocia seemed to have grown even more terrifying. 2 layers of light circulated around his body, one black and one gold, transforming into a dark golden color. This terrifying luster gave off a feeling of indestructibility. The aura circulating around his body grew even more intense, and his life force surged even more vigorously, as though he had an indestructible body. Namhuang Yunxi and Jun Mingchen's bodies also underwent changes. Qing'e was the same as before, quiet and tranquil. However, the aura in her body grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, Qin Wendian opened his eyes. He stared at the silhouettes before him. Mo Xie's entire body was flowing with a dark golden light, and his aura had already reached a critical point. It felt as though he could break through this bottleneck at any moment, establishing his immortal foundation and ascending to immortality. The ancient emperors all have their own preferences when choosing their inheritors. They all hoped that their inheritors would be proficient in energy similar to themselves. Ancient Emperor Yi was proficient in divine inscriptions, hence it was impossible for those who weren't proficient in divine inscriptions to cultivate the god's hand. As for this ancient emperor with such a terrifying physique, would his inheritance be more suitable for Mo Xie? Qin Wendian silently mused. Most probably, even the ancient emperor himself didn't expect that Mo Xie wasn't only suitable to inherit his energy, he was also suitable for the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Hence, before this, Mo Xie was already one of the 9 inheritors of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Most probably, with 2 great inheritances, he was already unstoppable. At this moment, Qin Wendian turned his gaze onto Qing, Namhuang Yunxi and Jun Mingchen. When his gaze landed on Jun Mingchen, his gaze abruptly froze. He saw that Jun Mingchen's body was shimmering with a terrifying luster. It was as though there were runic diagrams of the world circulating around Jun Mingchen's body. Most probably, an ancient aura could be sensed from him, boundless and powerful to the extreme. A sharp light flashed in Qin Wendian's eyes when he saw this scene. Maybe he was wrong. Sometimes, if one's thoughts were too deep, they might end up walking the wrong path. As he thought of this, Qin Wendian closed his eyes once again and focused. Humming sounds rang out unceasingly from his body, yet he didn't insist on resonating with the golden body. Instead, he let nature take its course, allowing the energy in his body to flow frenziedly. The terrifying demonic bloodline circulated around his body, causing a terrifying demonic might to radiate from him. His entire person became incomparably demonic. The circulating bloodlines seemed to transform into runic inscriptions that were engraved on his body. Another surge of bloodline energy also flowed because of this surge of might. This was a mysterious energy. Everywhere it passed by, the surging aura radiating from Qin Wendian's body would all calm down. It was as though everywhere this surge of bloodline energy passed by, all other types of energy would have to go into hibernation. When this surge of bloodline energy flowed through Qin Wendian's body, a mysterious transformation happened to Qin Wendian's body. All sorts of runic inscriptions appeared on the surface of Qin Wendian's body, and the runic inscriptions changed again and again, as though they were searching for the most suitable body. This time around, Qin Wendian didn't resist the flow of this surge of power, nor did he intentionally use it to change anything. He simply followed the guidance of the golden body and allowed nature to take its course. The aura radiating from Qin Wendian grew quieter and quieter, no longer surging with might. It gradually became ordinary, as though he had returned to his natural state. The aura radiating from Mo Xie is getting stronger and stronger. I'm afraid it won't be long before he succeeds in establishing an unparalleled physique. This Qin Wendian is really interesting. His aura has actually quietened down. Is he giving up? Someone commented in a low voice when they saw this scene. Body establishment, if Mo Xie succeeds, I wonder if the golden body will still exist. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that everyone who came here with good fortune would have a chance to establish an unparalleled physique? Another person asked. Even if that's the case, how many people would be able to do it? Someone at the side replied, causing the crowd to be speechless. They had already tried many times, but even if the golden body didn't vanish, how many people would be able to establish an unparalleled physique? Most probably, only those ranked within the top 5 of the Immortal Ascension rankings would have a trace of hope. Finally, a fearsome might engulfed this entire space. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out, akin to tsunamis. The golden body transformed into a beam of boundless light, directly rushing into Mo Xie's body. At this moment, The crowd only saw the golden body transforming into a shadow, fusing together with Emosie's body. This is... Emosie, is he about to succeed? Bzz. Boundless beams of light erupted forth as the golden body vanished from sight. In fact, the crowd even had a feeling that the golden body had never existed before, that it was merely a perfect physique. Or maybe that golden body was merely formed from pure energy. At this moment, the golden body vanished completely. Emosie's body was still floating in the air. An incomparably terrifying glow circulated around his body. The dark golden glow, the fearsome aura he exuded, all caused the crowd to feel that Emosie's strength had once again risen to another level, stepping into an unimaginable realm. Before this, Emosie was already sufficiently powerful. He had already reached the pinnacle of celestial phenomenon. It was simply unimaginable that he could still grow stronger after reaching that level. How terrifying would he be? Only to see Emosie's eyes opening as a beam of dark golden light shot out from them, terrifying to the extreme. His body moved and he stood up from his floating state. His dark golden eyes flickered with a hint of excitement. He had succeeded. His strength rose once again. Before establishing his immortal foundation, the firmer his foundation was, the stronger his immortal foundation would be. This was the state he wanted very much, and now he had achieved it. His gaze swept through the crowd, and it was as though everyone lost their luster under his gaze. He had fulfilled his arrogant words from before. With him here, the inheritance would belong to him. Who could snatch it away? And now, the inheritance belonged to Emosie. Emosie's dark golden eyes turned to Namhwang Yunshi, to Qin Wendian, only to see him speaking to Namhwang Yunshi. The three of you, how are you going to block me? Namhwang Yunshi's countenance turned cold, and she didn't say anything. Still cultivating? Emosie stared at Qin Wendian as he spoke. What's the point? As he spoke, he didn't bother with the others and directly stepped forward. When the golden body and the resplendent light dissipated, the entrance to the depths of the cavern appeared before him. Everything was as Emosie had guessed. After the body forging process, there might be more good fortune waiting for him. This unparalleled character who contended against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor definitely wouldn't just help the inheritors to temper their bodies. Next, he, Emosie, wanted to obtain the inheritance that belonged to him. Back then, the Brahma Heavenly Emperor and this ancient emperor fought for supremacy, leaving behind their inheritances. Now he, Emosie, wanted to seize it all with his own strength. Two seniors, in the future, I will perfectly channel the strength of both of you into a single person. There's no need for you to compete against each other, and there's no need for you to have any regrets. Emosie's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stepped forward. This was the beginning. In the vast immortal realms he, Emosie, would eventually stand at the peak. Chapter 948. Emosie stepped into the cavern. Before him, there was a statue that resembled an indestructible body. This statue was extremely large, and there seemed to be a hole in its body that shone with resplendent light. Behind Emosie, several geniuses followed. When they saw this scene, they all halted their steps and stared ahead. Emosie's silhouette flickered as he directly entered the golden statue. This must be another terrifying immortal emperor character. He might even have an inheritance. The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness as they followed suit. Bone Devil's speed was extremely fast, wanting to seize the initiative with a single step. However, Emosie's expression flickered as he coldly stared at Guillemot, who had just passed by him. A vast and boundless aura abruptly gushed forth from his body as a terrifying dark golden light shot out from his eyes. Scram back here. Emosie coldly snorted. He lifted his palms and blasted out. Bone Devil abruptly spun around as the runic bones on his body glowed brightly. He blasted out with his palms as his arms expanded explosively, exuding a terrifying might. However, Emosie was too terrifying at this moment. His entire body circulated with a dark golden light, and the might contained within his palms was sufficient to cause others to grovel on the ground. The chi in his body was pushed to the extreme, and with a thunderous boom, the two of them collided. In just an instant, Bone Devil screamed in agony as his arms exploded. After which, the crowd only saw Bone Devil being flung through the air as fresh blood gushed out from his wounds. How powerful! This Emosie's aura is too terrifying. That terrifying physique seems to contain an incomparable amount of battle chi. Bone Devil, one of the top 10 rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings, couldn't even withstand a single strike from him. The hearts of the crowd trembled as they involuntarily halted their steps. They didn't dare to continue ahead of Emosie. Emosie's eyes flickered as he glanced at Bone Devil. He then coldly spoke, "Overestimating yourself." With that said, he cast his gaze over to the others before stepping forth. With a flash of his body, he entered the golden space within his body and continued walking forward. The others were all geniuses as well. However, at this moment, they were all trembling with fear and trepidation. They could only follow behind, not daring to get too close to Emosie at all. Even for Xian Yang and Shaolin Yue, deep trepidation could be seen in their eyes. Before this, Bone Devil was already an extremely terrifying existence. His methods were ruthless to himself and even more ruthless to others. Now that he had obtained the inheritance of the two emperors, he was unexcelled in this world. Who could obstruct his footsteps? Emosie stepped into the space within his body. Within this space, a brilliant light illuminated the skies as powerful runic inscriptions flashed everywhere. It was as though every runic inscription contained an unparalleled might, and these runic inscriptions interweaved with each other to form a different body. It was as though a stellar martial cultivator was in a different state at different times. Emosie merely glanced at it, but he didn't pay too much attention to it. He continued walking deeper into the depths, and when he reached the end, he saw a row of words. Establishing an indestructible body, establishing a saint-grade immortal foundation. Saint-grade immortal foundation. Emosie's eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. Saint-grade immortal foundation. There was actually someone who managed to establish such a supreme immortal foundation? Could it be that the inheritance left behind by the ancient emperors was merely to pave the way for him to establish a saint-grade immortal foundation? A smile flickered in Emosie's eyes. This inheritance seemed to be even more powerful than what he had imagined. Inclining his head, Emosie stared at this space as his dark golden eyes gleamed with an oppressive light. And at this moment, outside, Qin Wenyan and the others had yet to enter. They only saw Qin Wenyan sitting there, retracting his aura and appearing incomparably quiet. However, on the surface of his body, a faint pure white glow could be seen circulating around it. Using their perception to peer into his body, they could clearly see that Qin Wenyan's body was currently undergoing some sort of transformation. Every part of his body seemed to be engraved with unique runic inscriptions as they gradually merged into a single entity. Faintly, a trace of an extraordinary aura emanated from Qin Wenyan's body. However, other than those beside Qin Wenyan, no one else cared. The others had already stepped forward, wanting to take a look at the good fortune before them. Qing'er and the others were the only exceptions. Qing'er stood guard beside Qin Wenyan as usual. Jun Mingchen and the others were there as well. At this moment, the transformation of Jun Mingchen's body had already been completed. He only felt an incomparably carefree feeling in his body, and discovered that Qin Wenyan was the same as well. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed with excitement, as though he didn't feel depressed at all about the failure of the body forging process. Because he knew that his body was undergoing an extremely good transformation. And Qin Wenyan was the same as him, undergoing the same transformation as well. Body forging didn't necessarily mean that one had to have the body of an inheritance. There was also a possibility that the body itself had an astonishing physique, and after it awakened, it would be able to forge a unique physique of its own. That golden physique, other than being a body forging process, could also be used as a guide. Nanfeng, why don't you go ahead first? We will stand guard here. Jun Mingchen spoke to Namhuang Yunxi. Nam Huang Yunshi glanced at Jun Mingchen as she coldly replied, "Do you think Mo Xie would allow me to seize his inheritance?" Jun Mingchen started, before nodding his head. Given that fellow's tyrannical personality, there's no way he would allow anyone to seize his inheritance. Although Nam Huang Yunshi was powerful, she was still inferior when compared to Mo Xie. In addition, we are allies, all members of the Qin sect. Nam Huang Yunshi emotionlessly spoke. She didn't even look at Jun Mingchen. However, she only saw Jun Mingchen looking at her as he grinned. "That's right, we are all members of the Qin sect. After senior brother finishes his cultivation, we will go and snatch that fellow Mo Xie away." Sadly, senior brother's cultivation base is still too low. If he were to step into the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, he wouldn't be any weaker than Mo Xie. Nam Huang Yunshi didn't say anything. This matter didn't really happen, nobody would know. But the current Mo Xie was truly too terrifying. His strength didn't just improve by a single level, he was much stronger compared to the past. Hua Taishu stared at Qin Wenin. Qin Wenin was too calm, so calm that it was completely different from others who encountered good fortune. However, this Qin Wenin actually caused Hua Taishu to feel that he was unfathomably deep. This time around, Hua Taishu didn't have many harvests. However, he didn't mind it too much. Some good fortune was destined not to belong to him. Even if he wanted to fight for it, it would be futile. But when it came to him, he would definitely seize it. When the last strand of light flowed onto Qin Wenin, his entire aura had completely calmed down, as though nothing had happened. He opened his eyes and stared at the others, only to see Qing'er standing beside him, silently protecting him. His companions were also standing protectively around him, causing a warm feeling to bloom in his heart as a gentle smile appeared in his eyes. "Let's go." Qin Wentian spoke. Everyone stared at the smile in Qin Wentian's eyes as their hearts felt at ease. His smile seemed to be able to give people a sense of tranquility. A strange light flashed in Hua Taishu's eyes. No matter where Qin Wentian went, he would always be able to gather friends with him as the center of attention. This happened unknowingly and seemed extremely natural. It was as though this was an innate charm he was born with. However, he would never have the slightest trace of arrogance. Qin Wentian had a special quality to him. It was as though being by his side would make one feel very safe. No matter what storms or waves they experienced, he would be able to resolve them. Others might not have noticed this, but the meticulous Hua Taishu could. Even the number 3 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Nam Huang Yunshi, most probably didn't know of this strange transformation that was happening to her. To think that she would actually allow others to be her pillar of support. The group of them stepped into the cavern, and very swiftly, they saw the statues and the spatial dimensions within them. Upon seeing this group of people, many of the geniuses had strange expressions on their faces. Before Mo Xie appeared, Qin Wentian's performance was extremely outstanding. Sadly, with Mo Xie here, he had nothing to do with Qin Wentian. However, although that battle was short, it was also extremely shocking. The 3 of them actually managed to injure Mo Xie. Right now, this group of people still maintained their alliance. Most probably, they were the only power that could contend against Mo Xie. The alliances of the others had long crumbled. Very swiftly, Qin Wenin and the rest also entered the space within the statue. Staring at the bodies formed from runic inscriptions, they felt as though there was a special meaning to them. In front of them, Mo Xie stood there, as though he was contemplating something. Where was the inheritance? At this moment, Mo Xie also saw Qin Wenin and the others. His dark golden eyes gleamed with a terrifying sharpness. However, he only saw Qin Wenin walking forward step by step, standing beside him as he stared at the words before him. "Don't you have the slightest bit of reverence towards me?" Mo Xie stared at Qin Wenin as he coldly spoke. "What qualifications do you have to make me feel reverence?" Qin Wentian replied. When he saw the indestructible body and saint-grade immortal foundation, his eyes flashed with a strange light. Tempering one's body, was it just to pave the way for one to establish a better immortal foundation? The legendary saint-grade immortal foundation, would it exist as well? A strange light flashed in Namhuang Yunxi's eyes. Could it be that the once invincible Brahma Heavenly Emperor of the immortal realms had a saint-grade immortal foundation as his opponent? Such a person was truly too terrifying. No wonder he could contend against the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. Your strength isn't much, but your personality is extremely arrogant. Mo Xie's lips curled up in disdain. His dark golden eyes stared at Qin Wenyan, containing a terrifying penetrative power. I also didn't discover that your strength is very high. Qin Wenyan glanced at Mo Xie before he turned and walked outside. From the entrance, he started to observe the statues. Did these statues really contain the secrets of a saint-grade immortal foundation? Arrogant. Mo Xie turned and stood in the center. An incomparably majestic might gushed forth from him as rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. The statues in this space all lit up, and from Mo Xie's body, a fearsome black light flowed. His palms stretched out, transforming into a fearsome vortex as boundless light flowed into his body. Even his eyes were closed, as though he was using the power of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor to obtain his inheritance. Qin Wenyan didn't use any other methods, he simply stood there. Although he didn't have the body of an ancient emperor, he still felt reverence in his heart. Since these statues existed here, there must be a secret to them. He had to use his heart to sense them. Qin Wenyan hasn't given up yet, wanting to contend against Mo Xie for the final inheritance. But with Mo Xie here, would he be able to snatch it away? The geniuses all mused silently when they saw this scene. Many people already felt that this inheritance would definitely belong to Mo Xie. Even if others tried to snatch it away, Mo Xie wouldn't let them off. Who would be able to snatch away Mo Xie's inheritance right under his nose? Chapter 949. The aura exuding from Mo Xie was terrifying to the extreme. The vortex around him was also extremely fearsome, truly devouring the energy of the statues in the air. Within his dark golden eyes, it was as though numerous living silhouettes were being born. Those lifeless statues seemed to be flowing in his eyes. Upon seeing this scene, Mo Xie coldly laughed in his heart. After obtaining the inheritance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, his strength grew even stronger. Now, he could use it to seize the inheritance here. Everything was like the heavens helping him. The inheritances of two ancient emperors were destined to belong to him. From now onwards, who else in the city of ancient emperors would be able to contend against him? Not even Zi Daoyang. However, Qin Wenyan was different from Mo Xie. He used his eyes to observe and his heart to perceive the statues. As he stared at the statues, a wondrous perception gradually appeared in his mind as he entered a unique scene. It was as though he could see the statues coming to life. These statues were actually the silhouettes of an expert, but they were still somewhat blurry. However, as he continued to comprehend them, a wondrous voice rang out in his mind, as though it originated from the primordial era. The scenes he saw also gradually grew clearer and clearer. For the other geniuses, some were comprehending, while others were observing from the side. Senior brother Qin has already entered a meditative state. What a fast speed. Jun Mingchen spoke in a low voice as he stared at Qin Wenyan. However, he wasn't too surprised. It was like no matter what Qin Wenyan did, he wouldn't be too surprised. Qin Wenyan couldn't be judged using common sense. Back then when he was brought into the underground palace by the Shao sect, they were still worried that Qin Wenyan would be at a disadvantage. However, after they exited, Qin Wenyan had already succeeded in comprehending the god's hand. Xian Xing didn't manage to do it, neither did Shaolin Yue. Mo Xie's aura grew even more terrifying. Such a character would only appear once every 10 million years in the immortal realms. Some of the geniuses stared at Mo Xie, whose entire body was shimmering with a dark golden luster. At this moment, Mo Xie's aura became even more terrifying. His aura fluctuated intensely, and the surging waves of might gushing forth from him were like raging waves, causing others to not dare to approach him. It was as though just this terrifying might alone was enough to drown everyone within it. Rumble! Just as Mosie's aura was surging, intense fluctuations erupted from his body, accompanied by a thunderous boom. His aura gradually calmed down. Mosie's dark golden eyes no longer had the splendor from before, replaced by a look of bewilderment. It was as though he was about to witness the most crucial moment, but something had interrupted him, interrupting him. This caused a strange look to appear on Mosie's face. What just happened? Everything should have gone smoothly, and he should have obtained the inheritance. Why did such a scene happen? A terrifying dark golden light flashed in Mosie's eyes. He closed his eyes, and this time around he grew even more serious. His aura surged forth once more, rumbling and roaring. His might was as terrifying as ever. Qin Wenyin was as quiet as ever. However, the scenes in his mind grew clearer and clearer. It was as though he could see the cultivation of an ancient cultivator. That ancient cultivator grew from weak to strong, experiencing all sorts of trials and tribulations, constantly improving himself, making himself stronger. He endured countless trials and tribulations, lingering on the edge of life and death, and finally he walked step by step towards glory, establishing his immortal foundation and ascending to immortality. Although it was just a simple perception, there seemed to be a mysterious energy that originated from ancient times in his ears, causing him to be able to clearly sense some mysterious energy. He could sense that the figure in the statue had already stepped into the immortal realm, establishing his immortal foundation and finally stepping on the path of an expert. Qin Wenyin could sense the excitement in his heart, the excitement of becoming an immortal. That was the first step in his path of contending for supremacy in the immortal realms. However, very swiftly, a feeling of despair appeared in his heart. His immortal foundation was shattered, and all his dreams crumbled in an instant. That feeling of hope, all the hard work he put in, all vanished in an instant. That kind of heart-wrenching pain deeply infected Qin Wenyin. In Qin Wentian's mind, despair also appeared. It was as though he was experiencing the life that the figure in the statue had experienced. For every expert, from the moment they were born, from an ordinary person to the point of glory step by step, stepping into the immortal realm, the amount of blood and sweat they had to pay was unimaginable. Everything was shattered. Such despair was very easy to understand. Qin Wenyin could sense how dispirited the figure was. He had been dispirited for many years until one day, he seemed to have obtained a miraculous ability. He became excited and overjoyed, as though he could see a glimmer of light in the midst of despair. The carvings in this space are actually a part of a person's life. Is this the life that the ancient emperor experienced? A thought flashed in Qin Wentian's heart. He was filled with reverence as he quietly sensed everything, as though he wanted to immerse himself in it. And in another direction, Mosie's aura was as terrifying as ever. His entire body shone with a dark black light, containing a fearsome might. Abruptly, his eyes snapped open as a dark golden light erupted forth. After which, his aura retracted before dissipating completely, returning to nothingness, as though he had never existed before. Mosie's countenance turned extremely dark, extremely unsightly to behold. He had failed once again. He actually had no way to obtain the inheritance. Qin Wenyin was still quietly comprehending. He could sense that after that stellar martial cultivator's hope was reignited, he started to work hard once again. After experiencing terrifying setbacks, as though he had experienced unparalleled pain and agony, he finally succeeded. However, that incomparably terrifying tribulation was now a little blurry. What was that? Qin Wenyin asked himself again. That kind of pain wasn't something an ordinary human could endure. He seemed to have seen it clearly, yet at the same time, it was a little blurry, as though he couldn't see through it. Qin Wenyin once again started from the first scene, comprehending it in his mind. It was as though he was truly experiencing his own life, feeling everything that the stellar martial cultivator had experienced. When he once again arrived at the moment of rebirth after despair, the pain that seeped into his heart was as though he was personally experiencing it. Amidst the despair, there was an incomparable conviction, as though he firmly believed that he would be able to rise from the ashes and be reborn. A terrifying bolt of lightning flashed past Qin Wentian's mind. That blurry scene instantly became clear, as though everything was clear. He finally knew what that stellar martial cultivator was experiencing. He finally understood what that stellar martial cultivator was experiencing. Immortal Slaying Foundation. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. This was the Immortal Slaying Foundation. It wasn't referring to killing Immortal Foundation experts, but rather, severing one's own Immortal Foundation. This stellar martial cultivator established his own Immortal Foundation time and time again, yet he severed it time and time again, enduring unimaginable pain and suffering. He endured everything that others couldn't comprehend, severing his own Immortal Foundation time and time again. Immortal Slaying Foundation, there's actually someone who could sever their own Immortal Foundation and re-establish it? Qin Wenyan experienced the insights of this life. It was as though the distance between him and that ancient emperor had shortened greatly. He had experienced the hard work, the struggle, the despair, as well as the rebirth. He had experienced everything that the ancient emperor had to go through. For any expert who could shake the world, they all had to climb step by step from the time they were weak. After experiencing countless trials and tribulations, they finally became a supreme character, stunning the world. This ancient emperor was the only one who could contend against the Brahma heavenly emperor in that era and even killed him. While the crowd was sighing in admiration at how strong he was, who would have thought that the despair he felt when his immortal foundation was shattered? Most probably, even he himself thought that there was no hope left for him to continue on his path of cultivation. Xie was still doing his best to resist this energy, wanting to subdue it. However, Qin Wenyan was completely different from him. He used his heart to comprehend it thoroughly. At this moment, the runic lines of light in this entire space started to flow, converging towards Qin Wenyan. After that, the strands of light unceasingly flowed into Qin Wentian's body. This sudden scene shocked everyone. Their gazes all turned to Qin Wenyan as their hearts pounded. How could this be possible? Xie had already succeeded in establishing his body and was only a step away from obtaining the inheritance. Yet, the inheritance that belonged to him was actually being absorbed by Qin Wenyan? In that case, what did Xie accomplish earlier count for? Xie's movements halted. He turned his gaze onto Qin Wenyan, his dark golden eyes gleaming with an incomparably terrifying coldness. That gaze of his seemed to be able to penetrate through Qin Wentian's body. He had said before that as long as he was here, the inheritance would belong to him. And now, Qin Wenyan wanted to seize his inheritance? Staring at the strands of light unceasingly flowing into Qin Wentian's body, Xie stepped out, moving towards Qin Wenyan. Every step he took seemed to contain an unparalleled might within. Namhuang Yunxi, Qing Jun Mingchen and the others all tensed up when they saw this scene. They stared at Xie as they moved to the side of Qin Wenyan, protecting him. Now stop. Xie stared at Qin Wenyan as he spoke. Qin Wenyan stared at Xie, his calm eyes devoid of any fluctuations. That strand of energy continued to flow into his body. He stared at Xie as he spat out, "You don't have the qualifications to obtain this inheritance." "I don't have the qualifications?" Xie stepped out as a surge of tyrannical might gushed forth, akin to the raging waves of a tsunami. Qin Wenyan snatched his inheritance and said that he didn't have the qualifications? Boom. An inextinguishable dark golden light enveloped Xie's entire body as he took another step forward. Thunderous booms shook the heavens. It was as though anyone who dared to block his path was courting death. The tempestuous waves of energy gushed forth as Xie rushed towards Qin Wenyan. Jun Mingchen roared in rage as he punched out with his fist. Scram! Xie spat out a single word as his fearsome might directly collided with Jun Mingchen's fist. The impact was so intense that it felt as though the heavens and earth were collapsing. Jun Mingchen's strength was tyrannical, but against Xie, he was still flung away by a single strike. He had no way to block Xie's attack. Be careful. Namhuang Yunshi spoke when she saw this scene. The current Xie was simply too terrifying. Even if everyone joined forces, they wouldn't have the confidence to contend against him. Chapter 950. Rumbling sounds echoed in the air. Every step Xie took caused the heavens and earth to tremble. The might he exuded was like the raging waves of the sea, engulfing this entire space. The geniuses in the surroundings were all stunned when they felt the overwhelming might. Although Jun Mingchen's cultivation base was lower than Xie's, he was also an extraordinary character. Yet, he was actually flung through the air with a single strike. From this, one could very well imagine how strong Xie was. Namhuang Yunshi and Qing'er stepped forward, blocking Xie's path. Xie's dark golden eyes were terrifying to the extreme. He stared at the two beauties in front of him and spoke, "Step aside, I don't wish to injure women." Qing'er radiated a fearsome might as spatial energy gushed forth. Boundless golden light enveloped her, terrifying to the extreme. At the same time, a red light illuminated the skies. Namhuang Yunshi's aura was similarly shocking. She was clad in the silhouette of an ancient phoenix, resembling a phoenix among men, incomparably breathtaking. These two beauties both stood in front of Qin Wenyan, blocking Xie for him. The boundless streams of light in this space flowed unceasingly into Qin Wentian's body. The ancient voice in his mind grew clearer and clearer. Faintly, ancient words could be seen imprinting themselves into his mind, causing his mind to buzz unceasingly, as though there was a voice within. Immortal Foundation is divided into 6 tiers. Below the 3rd tier are the mortal grade, the 4th tier is the immortal king grade, the 5th tier is the emperor grade, and the 6th tier is the saint grade. Severing a tier, severing mortals into kings, severing kings into saints. An ancient voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. The Immortal Foundation established by Immortal Foundation experts could actually be divided into different tiers. There were 6 grades, and the first 3 grades were mortal grades. The 4th and 5th tiers are the king grade. The 6th tier is the legendary grade. Saint grade Immortal Foundation is also known as Saint grade Immortal Foundation. Establishing a supreme physique, establishing a saint-grade immortal foundation, was precisely for this reason. The immortal slaying art required one to endure unparalleled pain. Every slash was akin to rebirth. If one didn't have an incomparably powerful physique, they would die without a doubt if they severed their immortal foundation. Hence, even if they obtained this inheritance, it would be useless unless they chose not to cultivate it. The only exception was if they chose not to cultivate it. Qin Wenyan unceasingly absorbed the information gushing into his sea of consciousness. His gaze was fixed on Xie as a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. His entire body shimmered with a supreme light as God's hand appeared. How could Xie's aura not be terrifyingly strong? His entire body glowed with a dark golden light, and with just a single glance, he gave off a feeling that he was invincible. His fleshly body had probably already reached a frightening level. At this moment, Xie took another step forward. The dark golden light around him transformed into sharp blades that shot out. He stared at Qing'er and Namhuang Yunshi as he spoke, "If this man dares to seize my inheritance, I shall take it back from him. If you too want to obstruct me, don't blame me for not showing mercy." As the sound of his voice faded, Xie lifted his dark golden palms. At the same time, terrifying calamity devil energy gushed forth, blasting outwards. Instantly, numerous devils appeared in the air, sweeping towards Qing'er and Namhuang Yunshi. The two of them still had the strength to obstruct Xie. But as for Hua Taishu and Zi Qingxian, their cultivation bases were too low. If they tried to obstruct Xie, they would definitely end up like Jun Mingchen, being blasted away with a single strike. Chi-Chi. Qing'er and Nanfeng Yunshi both unleashed their attacks at the same time. In an instant, boundless spatial swords erupted forth, containing traces of law energy within, capable of lacerating space and destroying everything. However, how could Xie's attack be weak? The entire space around him turned dark golden, and a devilish light of destruction could be seen. Every single particle of calamity devil energy contained a shocking amount of power, and when they erupted forth, they transformed into a frenzied tide of destruction, blocking Qing-Er's attack and destroying it unceasingly. Mo Xie's strength was simply too shocking. Nanfeng Yunxi's attack was filled with the power of the ancient phoenix, capable of incinerating everything, yet it was similarly blocked by Mo Xie's attack. After which, Mo Xie's attack unceasingly destroyed everything. With the three of them as the center, a destructive might gushed forth in all directions. This kind of might was akin to a tidal wave of destruction. The geniuses at the side all retreated far away, and could only sigh in admiration at the terrifying combat prowess of the three of them. Bang bang. Terrifying sounds rang out unceasingly. Namhuang Yunxi and Qing'er were both forced back, and even a wave of darkness energy blasted into their bodies, causing them to groan in pain as blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Seeing these two supreme beauties injured, many geniuses at the side felt a sense of tenderness towards the fairer sex. If it was under normal circumstances, they would have already acted to help. But their opponent was Mo Xie, who would dare to obstruct him. Qin Wenin had seized Mo Xie's inheritance, Mo Xie would never spare him. Get lost! Mo Xie roared in rage. With a single step, he trampled the heavens and earth, causing the void to tremble violently as his might shook the heavens. In that instant, Qing'er's long hair fluttered in the wind as an incomparably terrifying light flashed in her eyes. It was as though a diagram had appeared in her eyes, an incomparably demonic diagram. From her body, a terrifying might erupted forth. Those who saw Qing'er's eyes felt their hearts pounding violently as they stared fixedly ahead. Those eyes of hers were terrifying to the extreme, demonic to the extreme. There was actually a diagram within those beautiful eyes. It was like a sealed lotus. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Different beams of light shot out from Qing'er's eyes, each containing a fearsome penetrative might as they shot towards Mo Xie. Mo Xie furrowed his brows as sharp sounds rang out. The beams of light shot out from Qing'er's eyes actually clashed against the dark golden energy around Mo Xie's body. It was as though her eyes alone were capable of killing, truly terrifying to the extreme. Emichim? Mo Xie furrowed his brows. Right now, his body was indestructible and his physique was incomparably tyrannical. There was basically no ninth-level ascendants who could contend against him. His life force was incomparably vast, and both his strength and defense had reached an extreme. Yet at this moment, Qing'er's eyes were actually able to collide with his body. Beams of terrifying spatial light burst out from Qing'er's eyes, sweeping out and enveloping the entire space as they shot towards Mo Xie. Other than the dark gold light on Mo Xie's body, a terrifying whirlpool of energy started to circulate around him. His eyes were cold as he stared at Qing'er, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, the disciple of Jidi. If he acted against her, what would the consequences be? Within Mo Xie's dark gold eyes, a demonic ruthlessness flashed, after which he stepped out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The might he exuded surged to the extreme, reaching the pinnacle beneath immortality, a power that no one could surpass. With a thunderous boom, Mo Xie dashed towards Qing'er, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Mo Xie actually gave up on making Qin Wenin his #1 target, rushing towards Qing'er instead. Could it be that this Mo Xie dared to act against Princess Qing? However, given Mo Xie's terrifying temperament, it might really be possible. Mo Xie's personality was extremely ruthless. Many of his deeds were things that others wouldn't be able to achieve, or even wouldn't dare to do. An incomparably surging amount of energy converged on Mo Xie's body as he blasted out. Boundless calamity devil energy coalesced into an indestructible dark gold devil, enveloping everything as it rushed towards Qing'er. The diagrams in Qing'er's eyes became even more demonic. Several colors of light appeared, sweeping down, as though wanting to lock down the entire space. A terrifying lotus flower bloomed, containing a terrifying might that seemed to be several times stronger than Qing'er's earlier attack. The spectators only saw Qing'er's long hair fluttering in the wind as multicolored auras circulated around her. All of them were deeply shocked. A terrifying collision once again shook the heavens and earth. When the attacks of the two of them collided, they were actually evenly matched. Only the violent shockwaves from the collision tore through the air. However, Xie only gave a loud shout as he continued advancing. His aura surged boundlessly, as though it would never be extinguished. Qing'er wanted to defend, but at this moment, a silhouette abruptly appeared in front of her as a fearsome might erupted forth. It was none other than the appearance of God's hand. Qin Wendian had arrived. His God's hand seemed to be even more terrifying than before. When he attacked, it was as though he wanted to destroy the entire space. A gigantic palm imprint appeared, capable of suppressing everything. Boom! The violent collision caused Xie's attack to be destroyed once again. This scene caused the eyes of the spectators to narrow. Qin Wendian's combat prowess seemed to have undergone a terrifying transformation, as though he had undergone a qualitative transformation. He was now extremely powerful, able to withstand Xie's attack. After Qin Wendian's attack, a beam of light shot out from Qing'er's eyes, enveloping Xie's entire body within. That beam of light was actually a demonic spatial lotus, and right now numerous beams of spatial energy gushed forth, slashing towards Xie. Xie howled in rage as the dark golden light around him gushed forth frenziedly. He stepped out, yet spatial energy directly wrapped around him, causing him to be trapped within. Boom! At this moment, Namhuang Yunshi also unleashed an attack. Boundless red light transformed into flames of slaughter, and within the flames, there seemed to be an ancient phoenix howling as it shot towards Xie. Xie's gaze was terrifying. He inclined his head and stared at the incoming attacks. The Calamity Devil constellation stood in front of him, fighting for him. Boundless might unceasingly gushed forth from his body, slashing apart the spatial energy binding him. His dark golden eyes stared at the demonic eyes of Qing'er. Evidently, he hadn't expected that Qing'er would actually have such an ability. In the air, Qin Wendian appeared. The might of the Suppression Devil constellation congregated, transforming into countless silhouettes that shot towards Xie. Qin Wendian's countenance was cold to the extreme. He stared at Xie as he activated God's hand. The energy in his body gushed forth frenziedly, pouring into God's hand. God's hand exuded a fearsome aura. Kill! Qin Wendian roared in rage as he blasted out with God's hand once again. This time around, the palm imprints he blasted out transformed into numerous tyrannical silhouettes, containing an indomitable might as they blasted towards Xie. Boom, boom, boom. The energy binding Xie was unceasingly broken apart. Xie was simply too powerful. He soared up into the air, punching out at Qin Wendian. However, the attack of God's hand slammed into him, wanting to annihilate everything. Thunderous booms shook the heavens, and after that, Xie's attack was actually broken apart. The boundless attack continued on, and Xie lifted both his palms to defend against it. A deafening boom rang out as Xie's body was suppressed into the ground. His bones emitted cracking sounds, and when the energy dissipated, Xie coughed out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 951. Xie was injured once again. This was already the second time he was injured by the joint attacks of Qin Wendian, Qing'er and Namhuang Yunshi. The first time was before he forged his physique. Xie was incomparably arrogant. He said that as long as he was here, the inheritance would belong to him. No one else had the qualifications to snatch it from him. He didn't want Qin Wendian to be ahead of him. Hence, a conflict erupted. Qing'er and Namhuang Yunshi joined the fray, forcing Xie to give up on targeting Qin Wendian. He could only rely on his own strength to contend for the inheritance. Xie succeeded. He forged an indestructible physique, and his strength grew even more terrifying. His entire body was shrouded in a dark golden light, and his might shook the heavens, possessing an incomparably terrifying strength. But after that, Qin Wenyin appeared and fought with him for the inheritance. Not only that, this time around, Qin Wenyin had truly snatched away his inheritance. How could Emo Xie not be enraged? This time around, nobody could stop him from dealing with Qin Wenyin. However, the ending didn't seem to have changed. Emo Xie, who had grown stronger after his transformation, was injured once again. This time around, the opponents standing in front of him didn't change at all. It was still the same three. How powerful! Seems like Emo Xie isn't the only one who has grown stronger. Qin Wenyin has also undergone a transformation. The runic light circulating around his body is so terrifying, and there's a fearsome might radiating from him. Someone stared at Qin Wenyin as he spoke. Qin Wenyin seems to have also forged some sort of physique. Could it be that in front of that golden body earlier, not only did Emo Xie succeed, but Qin Wenyin also managed to forge a tyrannical physique? Qin Wenyan's physique was clearly the sign of a unique physique. His aura was surging, and every single strand of energy exuded from him gave off an unfathomable feeling, extremely powerful. Not only Qin Wenyin, Qin also grew stronger. Her eyes became even more alluring and beautiful, and there were diagrams in her eyes that were incomparably deep, capable of radiating terrifying energy. This daughter of Chongqing the Great still had boundless potential and shocking secrets hidden within her. If this is the case, I'm afraid Emo Xie wouldn't be able to win against the three of them. These three are simply too powerful. Upon seeing Emo Xie stabilizing his aura, thunderous rumbling sounds rang out once more. A dark golden light shot out from Emo Xie's eyes as he stared at Qin Wenyin and the other two. This was already the second time. Even after he established an indestructible body, he was still shaken by Qin Wenyin. Emo Xie had no way to endure this. Not only that, the might of Qin Wenyan's attacks was actually so strong. One must know that Qin Wenyan's cultivation base was lower than his, only at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. According to logic, with such a cultivation base, it should be impossible for Emo Xie to even move his body. Even if he allowed Emo Xie to attack freely, there was nothing he could do. However, Qin Wenyin actually relied on the might of God's hand to forcibly shake his body and even injure him. Such an attack was truly tyrannical. Boom! Emo Xie stepped out once more, but at the same time, Qin Wenyin spoke, "Do it." As the sound of his voice faded, he, Qin, and Nam Huang Yunshi simultaneously rushed forward. In an instant, the experts in the surroundings all retreated, not daring to get close to them. Qi! Emo Xie stabbed out with his finger. Instantly, a terrifying calamity energy coalesced into a terrifying devil saber. This devil saber directly slashed out, akin to a devil slashing out a saber light, aiming for Qin Wenyan's body. A single slash was sufficient to reap his life. A fearsome long spear appeared in Qin Wenyan's god's hand. This long spear was covered in runic light, as a strand of pure white energy wrapped around the tip of the spear. Qin Wenyin lifted his hand and directly blasted out, as though wanting to penetrate through everything, directly slamming into the saber light slashing out by Emo Xie, shattering it into pieces. If Qin Wenyan's earlier attack could be said to be a sneak attack, this attack could be said to be a frontal attack. By relying on God's hand, the tyrannical might of Qin Wenyan's attack was already sufficient to shatter Emo Xie's attack. This caused the spectators to gain a deeper understanding of how tyrannical Qin Wenyan's strength was. Nanfeng Yunshi stretched her palms out. Instantly, an ancient phoenix manifested as numerous fearsome phoenix feathers slashed out, resembling boundless saber light. The phoenix feathers were imbued with a fearsome fiery red glow as they slashed out again and again. Qin also acted. Her eyes were as demonic as ever as the chaotic spatial currents churned frenziedly. A terrifying lotus diagram directly imprinted itself onto Emo Xie's body. The attacks of the three of them arrived at the same instant. Despite Emo Xie's towering strength, he still felt somewhat flustered when facing three experts of such caliber. These attacks aren't enough. Emo Xie roared in rage as he punched out with his fist. With a thunderous boom, the calamity might of the calamity transformed into a world of chaos. wanting to annihilate everything. Bizizi. However, Qin Wentian's long spear erupted forth once more, capable of destroying everything. Mo Xie used a dark golden palm imprint to block it, yet he discovered that the spear art unleashed by God's hand contained an even more terrifying destructive might compared to before, directly shattering Mo Xie's dark golden palm imprint. The chaotic golden spatial light was an extremely great threat to Mo Xie, restricting his strength to the greatest extent. Qing Er's strength was originally already extremely powerful. Now that her strength had increased by 3 to 4 times, it was unknown how terrifying she was now. The immortal slaying diagram floated in the air and directly shot towards Mo Xie below. Mo Xie stretched out his hand as a heaven-shaking might gushed forth from him. Countless runes converged together to form an abyss of darkness. Mo Xie's palm transformed into a heaven-encompassing palm that directly slammed into the immortal slaying diagram, directly colliding head-on with the immortal slaying diagram. The energy within the diagram was frenziedly drawn into the vortex. Boom! Qin Wentian's God's hand also blasted out, as fast as lightning. The light flowing around his body contained a unique might, capable of crushing everything. This boundless energy converged into God's hand as he unleashed a terrifying spear strike. The spear light shone with boundless radiance, and everywhere it passed by, nothing could stand before it. Mo Xie simply stared at Qin Wentian's attack. His other hand stretched out as boundless calamity devil might transformed into a dark golden shield. It was as though there was a devil wielding the shield, and no attacks could break through it. At this instant, it was as though the strongest spear and toughest shield collided together. A thunderous boom rang out as cracks appeared on the shield. But at the same moment, the calamity devil might within the shield erupted forth, blasting towards Qin Wentian. Mo Xie used both his hands to defend against the ultimate attacks of 2 terrifying experts. He seemed to have transformed into an ancient devil, his dark golden body exuding a heaven-shaking might. However, it seemed that it wasn't enough just to defend against the 2 of them. Namhuang Yunxi's cold and arrogant eyes shot over, causing Mo Xie's countenance to stiffen. He wanted to break free from the attacks of the other 2, but what sort of characters were Qin Er and Qin Wentian? As long as he retracted his defenses, he would instantly encounter a calamity. The Calamity Devil constellation transformed into a fearsome might, as dark golden motes of light unceasingly shot towards Namhuang Yunxi. Namhuang Yunxi waved her hands as the silhouette of an ancient phoenix appeared. When it closed its wings, the resplendent fiery red feathers blocked the attacks of the dark golden energy. Qi! At this moment, Namhuang Yunxi's silhouette danced in the air, transforming into a beam of light that swept towards Mo Xie. In an instant, countless resplendent phoenix feathers rained down on Mo Xie, cleaving apart his defenses. He inclined his head, his dark golden eyes filled with coldness. It was as though he knew that he had no way to defend against the joint attacks of the 3 of them. A trace of reluctance could be seen in his eyes. Boom! Another thunderous boom rang out. Mo Xie's dark golden calamity devil shield finally shattered. Qin Wentian's spear gleamed with a terrifying light as it shot towards Mo Xie. At this moment, Mo Xie's defenses finally crumbled apart completely. The 3 of them pressed down on him at the same time, wanting to kill him off completely. Scram! A howl of rage rang out. Mo Xie was also extremely courageous. Even at this moment, he still relied on his own strength to defend. He didn't borrow the power of a divine weapon, but at the instant Qin Wentian's God's hand slammed over, traces of blood could be seen on his indestructible dark golden body. Despite the might he exuded, he was still forced back violently. His body trembled violently as he screamed in agony. Qin Wentian continued forward, his eyes filled with coldness. Mo Xie was the number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings and had also obtained the inheritance of the 2 emperors. How powerful was he? Qin Wentian's cultivation base was only at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. If he fought against Mo Xie alone, it was obvious that he was still lacking. When Xie saw the three of them rushing towards him, he inclined his head as a terrifying light flickered in his eyes. After which, a surge of immortal might gushed forth as he instantly dashed out. Dodge! Qin roared, as spatial energy enveloped Qin Wenyin. The three of them hurriedly dodged to the side, only to see Xie directly rushing out. In an instant he was already at the entrance. He turned his head back and retracted his immortal might, as though he had kept the immortal weapon he used earlier. He coldly stared at the three of them and spoke, "I, Xie, will remember your actions today." After speaking, he directly turned and departed, appearing extremely carefree. Qin Wenyin took a step forward as he retracted his immortal might. Earlier, Xie only wanted to leave, he didn't really intend to use his divine weapon to deal with them. Such an action was disdainful to the number 2 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings. If he really did that, he wouldn't be Xie anymore. He left. Xie was actually forced into retreat, and the inheritance was seized by Qin Wenyin. The crowd stared at the three of them. They relied on their overwhelming strength to forcefully defeat Xie, who had seized the inheritance of the 2 emperors, and forced him to flee. The alliance of these three was truly too terrifying. However, since Qin Wenyin had seized Xie's inheritance, would Xie spare him in the future? In the city of ancient emperors, Zi Daoyang, Xie and Qin Wenyin were destined to create a raging storm. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.